Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first live stream in a very long time. Today's stream is sponsored by Satori Reader. You get to hear from them every year around this Black Friday time of year. It is a big Black Friday sale over on Satori Reader, so check that out if you're interested. But we've got lots to cover today. I want to say hi to everyone in chat. Thanks for hanging out the day after Thanksgiving. I think it's Black Friday for a lot of you guys, so you could be out shopping right now, but instead you're hanging out with us. So that's really fun. Let us know when Brian comes on screen if everything sounds okay. The things we're going to be covering today, we're going to be covering some really fun stuff, as you probably saw in the title. There's lots of stuff the Japanese textbooks don't cover, which kind of sucks because there's lots of like little cool Japanese that's used in podcasts and in conversation, and you might not learn it if you're just using textbooks. So we're going to be going over, well, Brian's going to be going over some of that today. I'm going to be a student with you guys. Yeah, how's everyone doing today? Senor Serena, thanks for hanging out. Come to Japan, Dan, thank you for being here. Christian Cure, Sonar HD, Yuki is not on the live stream today, but she is hanging out downstairs watching us. Morbid Blessing wanted to come to my live show last month, but he wasn't here until the 5th. That's too bad. How's it going, Rajendra? Alex, how's it going? Yo, Zbot0, Mr. Anime, Alex, how's it going? Bebret, Brittany, how's it going? 5 Sloth Bear, thanks for hanging out. Lots of people look like they're excited for today. Oh, come to Japan dances. Taki tabete nai. Nihon de wa nakanaka mitsukaranai tte. Yeah, it's hard to find turkey. Everyone, what's turkey in Japanese? Do you know? Let us know on screen, in chat. But I am going to go ahead and bring Brian on. Let's give a warm welcome to Brian of Satori Reader. Here he is. Hey.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. I'm in the room with him here. Check it. Thanks for coming to hang out. People are chuckling on screen. There's a bunch of laughing faces popping up. Christian Kerr says, Ida mieta? Kikimasu. Okay, he says he can hear us. Okay, very good.
Okay, awesome.
Senior student says, Konbanwa. Come to Japan says, looks and sounds fine. Konnichiwa says Brittany. Tabun sore wa ii koto desho. All right, Brian. Thanks for being here. Is this your first ever live stream?
It is. It's not only my first live stream with you, but my first ever. So
first ever. All right, guys.
I'm nervous. Thank you very much for having me and helping out with all of this.
Of course. Everyone in chat here is very nice and super supportive. Oriana says, hello, happy Thanksgiving, Black Friday. Senor Serena says, whoa. Yuki said, Brian-san, konnichiwa, ohisashiburi desu.
Konnichiwa.
All right, 5 Sloth Bear says, kyou, musuko tachi wa watashi no uchi ni kimashita. Pizza o tabete anime o mimashita. Oh, nice. Cool. We bite here, Brian, so watch out. Come to Japan.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
All right. Tread carefully.
All right, Brian, so why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing here today?
All right. Well, the theme that I want to talk to everybody about today is patterns that are very common in speech, but that you don't see a lot in print, in writing. And as Andy mentioned, they're maybe a little bit less likely to be covered in textbooks. And I want to give a little bit of some background about why I chose that theme for today. It's because we've recently started a really cool collaboration with Yuyu no Nihongo Podcast. Yuyu-san is, I'm sure many of your viewers are familiar with him, but he's a podcaster who does these sort of like 30 to 45 minute podcasts, actually designed for people who are learning Japanese and just kind of want to have something to listen to in the background. And they're so fun. He tells interesting stories from his own life. He talks about Japanese culture, the meaning of life, it's just really wide ranging, but he's got this voice that's just so easy to listen to. It's so, my wife says it's like listening to like a late night DJ where it's just like, you just want to keep listening to that voice,
I should check him out sometime. I haven't listened to you. I listened like 1 or 2 podcasts before, but I hear a lot of people in my community as well talking about and recommending his podcast. that's really cool. So you're doing a collaboration with him on Satori Reader.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So we were listening to his stuff, and we had actually recommended him on our blog, and so in the team we were kind of listening to his stuff, and one day we just thought, man, it would be so amazing if we could put this on Satori Reader. His catalog is huge, so he's got like 300 podcasts of 30 to 45 minutes. So obviously only a small amount of that is going to make it onto Satori Reader. But we reached out to him, and he was just as excited as we were about the idea. And so we ended up doing that collaboration. And right now on Satori Reader, we have Yuyu no Nihongo Podcast as its own series. Yeah. Sweet. So maybe I can just show people really quick what that looks like. Let's see here. So switching over here.
All right.
So this is the homepage of Satori Reader, or the main series page. And so we're giving Yuyu-san top billing here. And so what we've done is he's created some content that's specific just for us. As you'll see, he talks to Satori Reader users here. And we're also taking some of his greatest hits. So there'll be kind of a mix of different content in there. But what's different about experiencing this content on Satori Reader versus on YouTube or Spotify or something like that is, we've given it the Satori Reader treatment. So you can see all of the words. You can, if there's a phrase or something that you're having trouble with, like 少しでもしてくれたら, there's the kind of 少しでも is kind of an interesting expression that I thought perhaps people might not immediately get if they haven't seen that before. So I kind of, we add explanations of how that works with other example sentences and stuff like that. So yeah, you can experience his awesome content, which I'll just play a little bit of it for you here.
ゆうゆうの日本語ポッドキャスト。
Right, so he kind of jumps.
サトリリーダーをご利用の皆さん、こんにちは、ゆうゆうです。
Jumps right in there.
Hey.
Isn't that a great voice? He reminds me of when I was in high school. I did a foreign exchange to Fukuoka, and for my Kokugo class, I actually took it with the middle schoolers at the neighboring middle school, because when I started out, I couldn't follow the high school Kokugo class at all, and so I was taking this class with all these like 13-year-olds. But the teacher of that class was so cool. He was like like the cool teacher who always has like funny stories to tell and stuff. And he would always like regale us with stories from when he was in college and stuff like that. And the kids are just like, so enraptured. But I always think of that when I listen to Yuyu, because he just pulls you in with his stories.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Come to Japan Dan says, why was there not these kinds of learning resources when I was studying Japanese 20 years ago?
I know. Yeah, me too. I feel your pain.
That's why Brian and I make what we make, basically, because we wish that this kind of stuff like Satori Reader and Yuyu-san existed when we were there. So AJ says, Satori Reader に登録します。
お願いします。Yeah, we would love to have you. So in the process of working on this content, of course, I spent a lot of time looking at Yuyu's content, and nothing makes you aware of the differences between spoken language and written language, as like when you actually see it transcribed black and white, right? You can see every or hesitation noise. And
oh my goodness, Come to Japan Dan and Yuki will understand that so much, because we've been doing some like vlog type content where we transcribe the whole entire thing, like a 30-minute video, and then we have to translate it. So there's always like this these little ahs and oohs, and there's all these little weird things that nobody knows what they are. How do you even translate them? Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of times it's human speech is a little bit messy, because we don't really like think it all the way out, right? Like
right.
you have this thing that you want to talk about, and then you just start going usually. But like midway through, sometimes you're like, whoops, I forgot to mention this other,
the
thing that
important part.
I needed to put that first, or sometimes you'll just sometimes just changes direction in the middle of a sentence. It'll get like halfway through and be like, never mind, I wanted to go this way. Right. But that's what everybody does in speech. And so working with that content and you're writing those notes and stuff, and kind of like trying to explain for people what's going on. It's kind of been in my top of mind right now.
Right. Makes sense.
That type of thing. So I thought, okay, this will be a fun thing to go through. So I've kind of put together about 4 or 5 categories of the kinds of changes that happen to speech when it goes through when the rubber hits the road and it goes through the human brain and comes out as speech.
Right.
So we have lots of example sentences, and I know that probably some of these things that we talk about, some of your viewers might be already familiar with. It might be new for others, but I've kind of tried to put together a variety. So I'm hoping that there's going to be something for everybody.
Sweet.
And even if each of the things that I'm going to talk about, there's example sentences to try. So I hope it'll be fun and use of everyone's time.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it. I might even learn something new. We'll see, guys.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you probably know about these. Well,
maybe. We'll see.
All righty. So let's see. Let's jump over into our categories for today. So kind of created a little bit of like a PowerPoint presentation for you all.
It's like the old ToKini Andy Genki streams.
Oh yeah,
I had my PowerPoints up like this, and I was on the other half of the screen. A lot of you remember that. A lot of you started with that. All right, sweet.
Nice. All right, so the categories we're going to look at today are we'll kind of ease in. First, we'll do some just hesitation kind of words, things that people do when they're thinking out loud, thinking. And then we'll get into sort of thinking out loud in the middle of a sentence, which is surprisingly common. You kind of interrupt yourself with things that you're asking yourself.
Right.
Then we'll get into some contractions, lots of just shortenings that happen in the middle of a sentence.
So many.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we'll get into inversions, and that's when you kind of say things out of the expected order. And finally, and that happens a lot in speech because people sometimes they just get ahead of themselves. They're like, boom, like I want to say this one thing.
Right.
And they say that, and then they're like, whoops, maybe I should have added some other information.
By the way, I was talking about this. They'll say at the end or something. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then as a bonus, there's a couple just other patterns that happen a lot in speech, but I don't know if I've ever really seen like in writing. So we'll kind of go through all of those and see lots of examples.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So let's dive in.
Let's jump in.
Okay.
I'll pop up here, guys, when there's something I want to add. So maybe I'll drag myself down here. All right, sweet. Right.
Awesome. All right. So we've got a couple different kinds of sort of hesitating or thinking in the middle words. And so the first one is some flavor of and to, or just sometimes. But yeah, sometimes you'll hear people put a small tsu before the to, like that. Or sometimes it'll just be to, like that. It's pretty flexible.
Right.
And that kind of just mostly indicates just stalling for time, basically. Right.
Just like an
Yeah, kind of feeling like what was that I needed to say next.
Right.
And then you've got your ano or ano, which also is stalling for time, but a lot of times it's kind of like there's this apologetic approach kind of aspect to ano that I think is slightly different from eto, like sumimasen. Like you're kind of like sorry to bother you,
Right.
So that's kind of a good aspect to that one.
Do you think with the ano, I've always sort of wondered about this. I use that one a lot. Would you say that like when it's in the middle of a sentence, someone's speaking or they're just thinking that it's basically the same as eto, but when you're starting a sentence with ano, it's like that apologetic thing? Is that what you sort of
I think you're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never really thought
Yeah.
about it, but now you just saying it there, I was like, I wonder if that's the difference, because I always see it listed with the apologetic approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've never seen it described that way. I was just, as I was kind of trying to think about the differences between these, I kind of thought it does have that feeling to it.
Oh yeah, very
But
much so.
yeah. No, I think you're right. In the middle of a stream of a sentence, it's pretty much just the same as
Right,
yeah.
right.
And some people say sono too. Have you heard people do that? To me, it feels
no.
a little bit older.
Interesting.
But,
I don't think I have. Maybe some older people. Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Interesting.
Sometimes it feels almost like the speaker's like a little bit flustered, and they're like,
Oh, okay. No, yeah,
right?
maybe I have heard that before. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Right.
Interesting.
And then finally we have ma, which Yu-Yu-san uses like crazy in his podcast.
Oh my goodness. I was watching an interview after like a race or something in the new year, and they called up the college student team, and there was 3 or 4 of these dudes, and the interviewer is interviewing them, and between like every 2 or 3 words it was like ma makoda, and I started counting them, and one kid spoke for like 20 seconds, and he said ma 27 times or something. It was insane. and I was like making fun of them, and then I listened to a recording of me speaking, and I said it like 10 times in the span of 30 seconds. I was like, oh no, I can't make fun of anyone for this anymore.
Totally. I mean, I've heard people use it basically as a prefix to the next thing that they want to say. Like
yes,
every little thing, they'll be like, ma kyou wa ma minasan wo yonda no wa,
ma.
Yeah. So I feel like this kind of has a softening, or sometimes it's like a conceding quality, like, yeah, well, okay, yeah, I can give you that kind of feeling to it.
Right.
But so let's jump into a couple examples here. I got to move my Zoom bar out of the way here. Okay. So here's just a nice, easy kind of example. 皆さんこんにちは、ブライアンと申します。趣味はハイキングとアニメです。Right. So kind of just a nice way to kind of stall for time there a little bit, where you're talking in front of everyone. Like, what are my hobbies again? Right?
It's a great way to suddenly make yourself sound natural, even when you have no idea what you're saying, I think, right? Because like you'll notice the difference, like if a new learner, when they're introducing themselves or something, they'll be saying a lot, and it's like, oh, instantly you sound like you're not speaking Japanese, but you just switch that even if you do it like intentionally. You suddenly sound like you know what you're talking about, which can be dangerous, because then people think you know more than what you do know, and they'll start talking at you at full speed. But 100%.
Yeah, no, but it keeps you in the Japanese frame, right?
Yes.
Like you're saying, it instead of pulling yourself constantly out to like asking yourself what was that in like English or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, no, it definitely.
Frank
improves.
says, for me, etto is when I want to stall a little longer, and the nan da ke if I'm searching for a word and really need to stall. Yes, 100%.
Totally. Yeah. So etto is a great one for that one. Okay, so another example is that 日本に来たのは, this is still part of the 自己紹介, I guess.
Right.
日本に来たのは6ヶ月前です. So that's just more of kind of the same there.
Right.
Let's see. Let's move on.
Before you move on, let's see what this would sound like. まあ、日本に来たのは、まあ、6ヶ月前です. You'd probably hear that as well sometimes. まあ、6ヶ月前です. It's a little bit casual, but still. That's fine.
Sure, yeah. No, you could say that. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. So here's some So here's the sort of apologetic approach. すみませんが、この席は空いていますか? I kind of like when I first was like, getting more comfortable speaking with people in Japanese, I made this discovery that like, if you give someone a little bit of a heads up that you're about to talk to them, like it's easier for them, right? And I think that's a lot of like what ano does in the beginning of a sentence a lot, right?
Okay, like eases yourself into their
Yeah, like
sort
at the
of circle.
supermarket, it's like, where's the show you,
Right, right.
right? Like it kind of like allows them to like lock on to you, and
Right, right.
right.
Okay,
So,
yeah. Let me just give you guys a quick,
hi.
for those of you who are super beginners, this we were just talking about, but
Mm.
sumimasen ga is like excuse me, but kono seki wa, as for this seat, aiteimasu ka, is it open? So something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we should be doing translations here.
No, that's fine. I can throw those in every once in a while.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, why don't we, me and you can kind of go take turns doing
Yeah,
translations.
for sure.
Yeah. So another example of that would be like, これいくらですか? So like, how much is this?
Right.
Right. So yeah, it just kind of softens up a little bit. But yes, of course, you can also weave this into a sentence itself, and we're going to see some examples of Yu-Yu-san doing that very thing in a moment.
Yuki
So,
says in chat, she says, I think I say ano more than eto, and she's laughing.
yeah,
There's definitely a personal preference thing to it a little bit sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And that's totally fine.
Mm.
You kind of find your own voice, or sometimes I find that in my life there have been sort of like people that became models for my speech. Like, like you were like, that guy, he's like who I wish I could be if I were like born,
Right.
in Japan and I was a native Japanese speaker. That's how I would speak.
I think Stephen Krashen it was, who talks a lot about modeling and how people need models that they want to speak like, or they never try. So that's an interesting point.
Totally, yeah. And actually, Yu is like such a good model to emulate because he speaks in a way that's really personable and really easy to listen to and relate to. But one thing I really liked about his podcast is that he uses desmas for most of his podcasts. He has a few that are in like tameguchi, like normal Japanese or sort of informal Japanese. But I like that because he shows so well how it's easy to be warm and fun and approachable, but also be using polite language. Because sometimes I think learners feel like, okay, polite language is stiff, hard, like, I don't want to be there. I want to be in tameguchi like as soon as possible.
Right.
But
I started out that way, to be honest, and I shouldn't have. Looking back on it, it's something I would do differently. But I was like, oh no, I don't want to use desmas. I just want to die and taberu with people I just met.
I think everybody goes through that because you start with desmas in your textbooks and stuff, and then you're like, what? There's this other level, and like, friends are all using that. Like, I want to be there.
There's another aspect of that too, where there seems to be like a movement almost the past probably 8 to 10 years where people are like, oh, textbooks are unnatural Japanese. Nobody uses something, but people misinterpret that saying. Like sometimes it's true, which a lot of this stuff they don't teach, but like they throw out the baby with the bathwater and think, oh, nobody uses mas des or something, so I'm just gonna learn from anime or something, right? Like just gonna speak like Naruto. But good point.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, it's speaking in the right register for your audience is so important. So you use just a great example of how you can have all of that warmth and fun and sense of humor and everything that makes you with and still be speaking in a way that would be perfect for giving some kind of a presentation or so he's a great model. But okay, so let's look at some more examples of ma here. So この問題はちょっと難しいですね。So there's a kind of example of sort of a concession, like, so he's saying like, this problem is, well, it's a little difficult.
Right. Softening it up a little bit.
Like
you're right, it's probably a little difficult.
Exactly, kind of like realizing as he's speaking, like, actually now that you mention, it is maybe a little, yeah. So the second one too, 彼女の気持ちもわかる気がするよ.
Right. The person is like, they're arguing that their girlfriend is she's so, I don't know, whatever she is. And the listener's just like, well, actually, that's what the ma is, right? It's the,
Right.
well, actually, I kind of get where she's coming from.
Right. Yeah. So
Right.
breaking that down, it's her
Oh.
feelings too.
Check it out. You no Nihongo podcast is stopped in.
Oh, awesome.
Brian さん、アンディさん、こんにちは。
こんにちは、ゆうゆうさん。
はい、ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
授業の合間なので、あんまり見られないのですが、いいストリーミングになりますように、もし話を遮っちゃったらすみません。大丈夫です。ありがとうございます。
大丈夫です。見てくださってありがとうございます。
Just talking about you.
Yes, just telling everyone how awesome your content is, ゆうゆうさん。
Yeah.
ゆうゆうさんのコンテンツ、本当にもう聞いてて飽きない、もう本当に面白いストーリーばっかり入ってるっていうことを今ね、皆さんと話していたところですので。OK。本当にありがとうございます。Alrighty. Yeah, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Yu-san because we're just so happy to be working with him on this series. So, alrighty. And on that note, actually, we have some examples from Satori Reader, and one of them is from Yu-san, and one is from a different series. So, I think this one was a little shorter, so we'll jump into this one first.
Sounds good.
And yeah, okay. And I'm going to zoom way in so that everyone can see this okay. Hold on a second. I got to move some stuff out of my way. So I'm at 150. We're going to go all the way up to, got it?
Excuse me. All right.
Okay.
Ooh, nice.
There we go. Okay, let me find, where did it go?
Let us know, guys, if you have trouble seeing it. It should be fine. Okay. Yeah, it's nice and big.
It's so big I can't find the highlighted sentence. Okay, here it is. So here's an example of like in practice.
Yeah.
お会計をしたいんですが。
Can you play that one more time?
お会計をしたいんですが。
Sweet.
There we go.
It's like, yeah, it's just getting yourself into the conversation. Excuse me.
Yeah. So I guess we use like that in English too, right?
A little bit.
Not
as explicitly, but I almost feel like to interrupt someone like that or to like get someone's attention, almost maybe not, but to me it just feels like it's a little bit rude.
It could be.
It could have a slight like, hey, why aren't you looking at me right now? Type. I don't know. Maybe I haven't spoken English enough right now. Whereas ano does not have that feeling. So don't ever feel like I don't think you'd ever need to feel like you're being rude if you're interrupting someone with ano.
No, not
very much
opposite,
hesitation.
actually.
Like, I don't want to bother you, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's a really, it's nice to be aware of that difference. Okay. So let's see. Here's an example from Yu's podcast. And so actually you can see he really sprinkles in. He's got an ano here. We've got an eto here.
And a ma.
Is there a ma in here?
Right after the eto.
Eto ma. Yeah, exactly.
Eto ma.
And that's a kind of a common combination. You're stalling and then you kind of have the concession into the sentence.
Right.
Eto ma. So we're going to hear that in a second, but you can see down here, he continues, we've got ano, there's another right here. So yeah, he really uses it a lot, which of course just everybody does in natural speech. So let's have a listen here.
今まで僕は何をしてきたのか、そして僕の好きなこと、趣味、そして最後に座右の銘っていうテーマで話していきたいと思います。
Alrighty. And then we'll just listen to maybe part of this one too, because we have a little more in here.
Yep.
で、早速ね、始めていきたいと思うんですが、僕は、2012年にメキシコに来ました。
Okay.
They're all in there.
Right, yeah. Yep. Okay, so let's get back over to here. And then as a little bonus, I threw in what my wife calls Osan Sarariman hesitation. I put this in here because it looks so basic when you see it spelled out, but I remember it took me like a really long time to notice that this was happening. But you'll see people when they're like doing a press conference or like a politician or something, they'll just like extend the last vowel, but they put a break in, so it'll be like それがここに
Oh,
Have you heard people do
interesting.
that?
I haven't like thought about it. I'm sure I have, but interesting. Okay.
And they-
I've noticed certain people like will extend places I wouldn't have expected. Definitely. Like
Mhm.
particles and stuff. I didn't notice the break. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like it's like they really just want to fill that space and not,
Mm.
そういうそれで
I guess like after us, それがit's a little bit harder like to make that switch. The それがso it's much easier to say それが like your mouth is already in position.
exactly.
That
Yeah.
makes sense. Interesting. Okay.
So, no, yeah, for anyone out there, if you're living in Japan or you're watching Japanese TV, I guarantee keep your eyes out for this. You'll see it next
yeah.
time.
I'm
It's
gonna
like
look out for it. Oh my goodness, I've never. Huh. Very cool. I'm gonna try using that too. それで I'm an Osan. It's fine.
Osan. Yeah, I know. I'm in Osan territory too.
Perfect. Osan, for those of you who are wondering, is an middle-aged man, a little bit older. I think it's like well, it depends on what age the person is speaking. For an elementary school student, anyone over 20 is probably an Osan, but I think the average is like 40 to 60, 40 to 50, 30 to 40, 50, something like that.
Yeah, 50. Yeah, being
50,
the center of that range, I think.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, okay. So let's see. So if everyone's okay and everyone's following along so far, I thought we could move on to our next section here, thinking
Sounds
out
good.
loud in the middle of a sentence. And so for this one, I wanted to just jump right into a nice, easy example from Yu-Yu-san. And so let's see here. Oops, let this thing load. Okay. Wow. We are zoomed.
Nice.
Okay, so so here we go.
で、12年間ぐらいかな、はい、日本語教師として働いています。
All right, so what he wanted to really say there is just 12年間ぐらい日本語教師として働いています。But he was like, wait a minute, how many years has it been? And so he like asked himself, 12年間ぐらいかな? Like is it about 12 years? As though he's actually, asking himself.
Right.
And so he just phrases it, even though the whole sentence is, using desmasu, he phrases it as though it's just a self-directed question, because it really is, right? He's not asking you, the listener.
Right. Even that
so-
height there is something like a new learner would never expect. What is this height doing here? You learn hai is yes. So 12年間ぐらいかな? It's like he's answering his own question. Yeah.
Yes, and he does that a lot, actually. I really like it about the way he talks. He's always like sort of agreeing with himself.
Right.
As he's speaking. I don't know why, but there's something just kind of like endearing about that to me.
Yeah. No, it's nice. It's interesting because looking at this spelled out like this and thinking about like a student saying the same sentence, 12年間ぐらい日本語教師として働いています. Sort of that sentence alone sounds quite stiff almost. But it's not like it's bad Japanese. It's a perfect sentence. But just adding all these little sort of quips and the pauses and that kana makes it sound like supernatural.
Right, exactly. So let's look at some more examples of that kind of thing. So some typical things that you might use at that moment would be like, なんだったっけ? What was it again?
I love that one.
Just in case anyone's unfamiliar, this small tsu followed by ke, you can add it to the end of any past tense sentence, or if the sentence ends with da, that's the only exception for present tense, but usually to like a past tense, any past tense sentence, and it means like you're trying to recall, like どこに置いたっけ? Where did I put it? Or いつだったっけ?
It's like you did know,
right?
And now you are trying to remember because you don't know it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
kind of pull it back.
You can
from
actually
his-
use this too when you're pretending you knew something but you never did. 名前はなんだっけ? What's your
That's-
name
yeah.
again?
It could be a good technique.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so or just like なんだろう or どうだろう as you're kind of thinking about something in the middle of the reply.
Right.
So here's an example. So before we do the example, 人を見る目 means eyes for looking at people, and basically sort of being a good judge of people. That would be 人を見る目. So 彼女のなんだろう人を見る目が本当に特別だと思う. Right? So that's in this sentence that the speaker didn't know exactly how he wanted to name that property that she has. 彼女のなんだろう right? Like what is it? How would you describe it? And then the speaker realizes, okay, 人を見る目. That's what I want to say there.
Right.
That's what she has that's so special. So this sentence means her way of looking at people, her eyes for looking at people are really special, I think.
I like how you just did that in English too, and maybe not even intentionally, but you said her, and you said her again and extended it. I feel like that almost fits, like repeating the subject, whatever that is, and just extending it the way you did it there, almost is a perfect match for nandaro in the way we'd say it in English. Her, and then whatever that would be in English. Her way of looking at people. Yeah, something like that. I feel like that's would almost cover it quite well.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. It's interesting how there are so many things in English that we cover with maybe, a tone of voice or something like that, where it's explicit words in Japanese or vice versa,
Right.
Finding those kind of the way that those they fit together is kind of interesting
Right.
in that way. I think, okay. So that was the
one
only
second,
example I had for
I want to
that
answer,
particular one. Oh, go ahead.
I want to answer. Brittany says, Genki doesn't teach us daro. I see it in stuff I read all the time. I was hoping for it. There is a section about daro, like the actual grammar for that. But the expression nandaro in the middle of a sentence when you're trying to think of a way to say something is not covered in any textbook. That's just a little like special phrase that you can pop in the middle of when you're talking to give yourself time, not to give yourself time to think, but like when you are thinking about something, kind of like what you might
like indicating to the listener that you're thinking about it, so that they know they should, there's more information is still coming.
Right, fill in the space.
Yeah.
Yep.
But no, so daro is the lower form of desho. So if you were asking a person politely, you could maybe say like nan desho ka. What could it be? And so since this is a self-directed question, you can use the low form.
Right.
Well, actually, in this sentence, the whole thing is, I said low, but I meant informal. The whole sentence is in informal Japanese, so it doesn't really matter. But even if this sentence had ended with tokubetsu da to omoimasu, you could still use nandaro in there because it's just you're asking yourself.
Right.
Okay. And then kind of a one that could maybe be something to reach for people who maybe have those easier versions would be this expression, nan to ieba ii no kana, which literally breaks down as what should I say? Nan to ieba, if I say what, ii, would it be good? Nan to ieba ii no kana, I wonder if I say what, will it be good? Like, how should I say it? And so this kind of indicates that you're searching for the right words, the right way to say it. And it sounds really, I think it could make your Japanese sound a little bit next level, maybe. If
Absolutely,
you're trying to get there.
That's a good
one.
I personally use a slightly separate, different version usually. The nan to ittara ii kana. I think it's basically the same.
Sure. But, exactly.
Yeah. Very, very natural one. You hear natives use this one all the time.
So, and it kind of gives the flavor that you're searching really for the appropriate way of saying something. So like if we take a look at this example, 彼女の洋服は何と言えばいいのかな。まあ ユニークですよね。
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So translating that, her clothing is, how should I say this? Well, it's unique, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little unique for sure.
Right. So maybe he had a different, the speaker had a different idea in mind, but he wanted to like tone it down.
Right.
Or yeah. So let's do the next example here. この映画は何と言えばいいのかな。ストーリーはシンプルだけど深いテーマがあるんだよね。
Right. I like
Okay,
the contrasting examples too, because the first one is sort of like, this is sort of a sensitive topic. How do I say this right? And the next one is just he wants to say something nice, but he can't figure out the exact way to say it.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect.
So the translation of this one would be this movie. As for this movie, how should I say this? The story is simple, but there are deep themes. So yeah, that's a nice thing to say about a movie.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody doing okay, following along?
Looks like it. Looks like everyone's having fun. Yeah.
Okay, great. Alrighty. Okay, so
Jeff Sun says, regardless of language, dangerous conversation. The first one. Yes.
Yeah. You might want to pick the person about who you say that.
Yes, very much so.
Alrighty. So let's get into some contractions. So the first one we'll do is te wa becoming cha. And so an example of that would be like tabete wa can become tabecha. And the sort of the twin version of that is if it's de wa, it becomes ja instead. So non de wa would become non ja. So if we look at some examples, we're all familiar with this actually, even from just like de wa nai becoming ja nai.
Right.
But so de wa mata ne becomes ja mata ne, or sore de wa can become sore ja. Right. Okay. Moving into some sentence examples here. So in this example, ice means not kori ice, but ice cream. So 私のアイスだから食べてはダメだよ. It's my ice cream, so you can't eat it. No eating it. That could be contracted to 私のアイスだから食べちゃダメだよ.
Yep. And that's the one
Right?
you probably hear even like in conversation.
Sure, yeah.
Much. Like siblings talking. It's almost always going to be the cha.
Yeah, totally. And with the dewa example, we'd have この水を飲んではいけない can become この水を飲んじゃいけない. So you must not drink this water.
Yep. Brittany says, oh, okay, I know these are simple examples, but cha is brand new for me. So
okay.
Sweet.
I was hoping, because I knew that, dewa becoming ja, I mean, we learned that with dewa nai becoming janai, right? But I was hoping that something new would be maybe the tewa one, or knowing that dewa can work at the end of a verb too, right? It's not just in like ja mata or something like that. But non dewa can become non ja. So great. I'm glad to hear that there's something useful in there for people.
Sonar says, but these are slang though, and I wouldn't necessarily say they're slang. It's just that they're shortening up, making it easier to say. Because te wa ikenai or te wa dame, there's a lot of mouth movement, whereas cha dame, it's a lot less mouth movement. So it's not so much that it's slang, it's just making it easier to say, I guess. I don't know. Would you say that's accurate?
No, totally. I totally agree. And, if you were to use, at the end of the sentence, if instead of ikenai, you used ikemasen, kono mizu o nonja ikemasen yo, that could be totally fine in polite conversation.
Absolutely.
It's just, what it feels like is it feels like speech as opposed to written language.
Right.
And of course, that's not to say that it would be unnatural in any way to say the full nonde wa ikemasen.
Right.
It's just that, sometimes people tend to be in a hurry sometimes in speech, or as you said, there's a quicker, easier way to get it out of your mouth, and people will prefer those.
Right.
but generally speaking, it's true that taking the extra time and effort to say it like the uncontracted way is always going to sound a little bit more polite, a little bit more formal. But if you watch Yu-Yu-san's podcasts, you'll see he uses, for example, he uses ja arimasen instead of dewa arimasen. Now, so he's keeping it like formal with the arimasen. He's, it's not janai there, but he kind of contracted that front part. So definitely feel it's safe to mix this contraction in to even semi-polite speech. Okay.
100%.
Okay, so moving along here, we've got 勉強しなくてはいけない. And that could become 勉強しなくちゃいけない. The same tewa there. I wanted to illustrate that it works with なくては also, not just like a verb.
Right.
Okay, and the last one. Okay, so
by the way, yeah, the 勉強しなくてはいけない means it's sort of like the must grammar here. So it's I must study. So 勉強しなくちゃいけない. I must study. And there's a million different ways to say must, right? 勉強しなくちゃダメ。勉強しなくちゃいけない。勉強しなくちゃなりません。ならない. A million ways. I usually tell people just for starters, just pick one and stick with it, and you'll figure out the rest later.
Right, because there's multiple of the first half and there's multiple of the second half.
Yes.
Right. What you're saying is if I don't do it, it will be bad.
It will be bad. Yep.
But there's like at least 3 ways, and if you throw in contractions, there's 5 or 6 ways to do the if I don't do it part, and there's like 3 endings. So there's a lot of permutations.
There's a lot.
But like you said, definitely just pick the one that you feel the most comfortable with, the one that kind of rolls off your tongue the most easily, and you can just make that yours, and then later you'll add different ones maybe.
And sometimes if it's in very casual speech, you just drop the second part. 勉強しなくちゃ.
Totally.
I must. I gotta study.
Totally. Yeah, that's a great example there. And then this last example is something I remember hearing someone, a Japanese exchange student who was coming to the US. She was in the US, and she was realizing that she should stop hanging out with only Japanese friends. And she said, 私の周りの人はみんな日本人だ。これじゃあ英語が上達しないな。So 私の周りの人, the people who are around me are all Japanese people. これでは in this state of things, in this like this, 英語が上達しないな. My English will not improve.
Right.
And I remember, and this was sort of early in my Japanese career, and hearing I felt really cool to hear the これでは becoming これじゃ like under these kinds of circumstances. So that kind of stuck with me. But
nice.
Yeah. So everyone doing okay?
Yeah, I think so. Looks like it. I love the construction for must, incidentally. Prohibiting your failure to act, says Five Toes Sloth.
What'd you say? Prohibiting
your failure to act.
Yeah, that's right. Not doing it is prohibited. Yeah. Actually, I guess that's really what it is.
Equals must.
Yeah. Not doing it is not allowed.
Choppa-san, yes, the replay will be available later. Absolutely. So you can watch later. Okay. You'll be good to go.
Great. Okay, a couple quick examples of this from Satori Reader. We're going to jump into, which one was this? Okay, the very first one here. Right, okay. So here's an example, and the word that we're looking at is right here. So let's play it.
それからケンは僕とモカにいいかコナとモカはこの柵には絶対に触っちゃダメだぞ。
All right. So it was
コナンモカ.
All right. 懐かしいですか?
Yes. 懐かしいです.
Yeah. So this is a 触っちゃ, which is a contraction of Andy-san.
触っては
Yes. 触ってはダメだぞ。
Mm.
You must not touch it. If you touch it, it will be bad.
Mm.
Right.
Brittany says, dazzle sounds fun. the ending there, dazzle.
It does. I love, I think maybe the best way to understand zo is that it contains this note of warning,
Mm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like every time people say it, they're literally warning, but I mean, it does have that. Like, I remember, again, this is very early in my career, but like, you know, some guy, a friend of mine was like rooting through the fridge and he was like, Mugicha ga nai zo. Like, we're out of Mugicha. Like, what happened? There's a problem here.
I don't know why I find that so funny, but that's great. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, a note of warning is the Zoa thing. And regardless of what textbooks say, women do use this. I think it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It does tend to be.
For context, everyone, often textbooks teach Zo as just a very masculine casual yo, is how you'll often see it taught. But
wow.
that's what I've usually seen. A very casual masculine yo.
That's an interesting way of thinking about it. Yeah.
But no, definitely, I've definitely heard lots of women use this one as well.
Sure. Yeah, totally. I mean, it's true that it has a slightly, like I say, like a warning kind of feeling to it. So maybe women will be a little bit less likely. There's like a little bit of a coarseness, harshness maybe to it. But women will use it a lot, jokingly.
Yes, very much so.
So yeah. Okay, and then another example here. This is from Kona's Big Adventure Part 2. Let's see here. Okay, I love this performance here. Let me see if I can manage to scroll up just a little bit. There we go. Okay, and the abbreviation happens right here. Sorry, it's being broken right here, but moracha. So let's listen to this one.
敵の親分は大猫が押さえたお兄ちゃんの体の上に飛び乗るとお前に生きててもらっちゃ困るんだよと言ってお兄ちゃんの首に何度も噛みついた
I just
Sound
love
effects are great too.
Yes, I know. Shun-san's performance is just so awesome here. 生きててもらっちゃ困るんだよ So what he's saying here is 生きてて living 生きててもらっちゃ so that will be short for Andy-san
もらっては
Yes. So having you be living will be trouble for me.
Yes.
So basically, I would prefer you not continue to live.
Yes.
I would prefer not to have you, to have you continue to live. So that's a 生きててもらう. It's actually kind of a sort of a different use of te morao than what might be used to. But yeah, having you continue to live will be a problem for me. 生きててもらっちゃ困るんだよ.
Morbid Blessing says, I wish people spoke to me like that when I was in Japan. If you got into some fights, they might, but I don't recommend it.
That's a pretty serious fight.
Jeff-san says, this just got dark.
I don't know if maybe it's just me, but for some reason, the like really serious example sentences, they just like, they're more interesting or more fun to me. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Than
more memorable,
like,
for sure.
Yes. Than like, I bought some milk at the store. Although
right.
I've made my share of those sentences.
Of course. Alex Bogue says, dude, this is some serious voice acting.
Yeah.
Jeff-sama. Does he typing in chat? That's great.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great story. So check it out if you're interested. Okay, so the next up on our contractions list is ke shimau, turning to chao, and de shimau becoming jiao. So it's a very similar pattern to what we saw earlier, but this is for the doing something and being maybe displeased with the result or doing it all the way. That te shimau. So here are some examples. Tabete shimau. And so that could then be contracted to Andy-san, dozo.
Tabechao.
Yes.
Tabechao yo.
Tabechao yo. And once it's in this form, it conjugates like a godan katsuyo verb, like just the same way as shimau conjugates. So the past tense of tabechau would be tabechatta. The negative would be tabechau becomes tabechawanai, and so on.
And you can even do not formal, but formal conjugations as well, right? Tabechaimasu.
Tabechaimasu. じゃあこれ食べちゃいますね. Yeah. Okay. And then let's go here to 飲んでしまう. So that becomes 飲んじゃう. Okay. So this is kind of like, it's a common thing in textbooks to see, but I thought it would be just kind of nice to review it here. So we've got a few example sentences. 鍵を忘れちゃった. So the long form of this, maybe Andy-san, maybe you can restore the long form of that sentence.
鍵を忘れてしまった.
Yes, I forgot my keys, to my chagrin.
Right. Yeah, and that teishimao is it's expressing like regret for doing something essentially, and you've completely forgotten it. And you're very regretful of that. Because you really need that key, and you left it 3 hours behind in Pennsylvania.
Right. You're realizing like on the platform of the train or something like, oh no. Yeah. Okay. Here's another one. Goes on along with the regret theme. ちょっと食べ過ぎちゃった. Okay. So restoring to the full form we would have. Andy-san.
ちょっと食べ過ぎてしまった.
Yes. Yeah. So 食べ過ぎる means eating too much. We're combining 過ぎる to the mas stem of 食べる. So 食べ過ぎる, 食べ過ぎてしまった becomes 食べ過ぎちゃった.
Yep.
Okay. All good so far?
Yep. All good.
Okay. And this would definitely be a no-no if you were in international espionage. 大切な秘密を話しちゃった.
Oh, no.
I slipped up and spoke an important secret.
Very important secret. And now I will never speak any more secrets.
Yes, right. Dead men tell no tales. So
大切な秘密を話してしまった.
Right. I always thought this was a little bit interesting when I was learning that this hanashichatta, how the she and she can come together. I remember feeling that it was different somehow, but it's just the same form. It's hanashite shimau becomes hanashchau because it's the te part that is becoming getting turned into the chau. So hanashchau, hanashchatta kakoke, the past tense. So yeah, okay. Everybody following along here?
Yep, Brittany says tabe sugichatta is very thematically appropriate for those who celebrated Thanksgiving yesterday.
Indeed.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone who did.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving. And why don't we, along that same theme, for a little extra credit here, let's say I drank a little too much and see how that would work out. So maybe, yeah, go ahead, Andy.
ちょっと昨日飲みすぎちゃった.
Yes. ちょっと飲みすぎちゃったな。
飲みすぎちゃった。また。
Yeah.
おとといも飲みすぎちゃった。
飲みすぎちゃうよね。
飲みすぎちゃうんだよ。
Alrighty. Okay, so moving along. Okay, so now we might be getting...
Someone actually answered in chat with it as well. Before I even said it. 飲みすぎちゃった says Sonar HD. Very good. Oh,
nice work.
Extra credit for you and Mark. Nice.
Very good. Okay, 5 bonus points.
Yes. We're keeping score over here.
Mark it up. Okay.
My little tissue notebook.
Nice. Okay, so now maybe we'll get into a few that maybe are less familiar for people. This one here is the dia contraction, and this can be used with kore wa. It's specifically for kore wa, sore wa, maybe are wa, although I don't know if I've really heard it that much.
I don't think I've heard it with are wa much. Yeah.
But yeah, you could. I mean, theoretically.
Yeah.
But yeah, so korya, sorya means kore wa and sore wa. And so, like, here's some examples. そりゃすごいね. It doesn't really save you very many syllables.
Not a whole lot. それは、そりゃ.
And I think you could even make a case that it's actually slightly harder to pronounce. But
for me, definitely. それは. But I guess I could see it because with wa, it's like well, you can't see me on screen, but like with wa,
yeah,
instead of this screen, I'll pop this up. So like with wa, if you have to make your lips rounder a little bit.
Yeah.
Wa, but so
So
yeah, it's all in
Mhm.
one movement. Yeah. So I guess I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right.
It's just harder for us, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's because of
It's not
the
very
dreaded
English. Yeah.
lagyo,
Right. Yeah.
the R line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Plus, so it's the line plus yeah. That's always a little bit challenging.
Yes. Brittany says,
Yeah.
when said at natural speed, they sound pretty similar to me, like a person is mumbling. Yeah. So, but they do, which is probably why they're allowed to do it. But but yeah, I think the important part is it's easier for a native person to say this, right?
Right, and that's really how these all came
Right.
about, right? こりゃびっくりだ. They often adds this particular one, I think, adds a feeling of like casualness and maybe some emotional reaction.
Very much so. Yeah.
Right. So I think
びっくりだ.
right. And especially one of the things that sorya is used a lot for, and maybe especially with that extended vowel on the end, is like, well, yes, dude, of course, in that case, sorya so desho. Like, so sorya so desho would literally mean that is so, of course. Like, yes, it's going to work out that way. But so it'll be used a lot when kind of like you're hearing somebody say something and you're like, yeah, that's what's going to happen.
Right, of
so
course.
here's an example. Donuts を10個も食べたの? そりゃ
そうですよ.
そりゃお腹を壊すよ. Right. So you ate all of 10 donuts? Well, in that case, of course, you're going to break your stomach, which means you're going to have some stomach upset.
Right. お腹を壊す. Yep.
All right. Yeah.
You will indeed mess up your stomach. Although I wish it didn't.
Yeah. 20個でもね、10個でも20個でも、いくらでも食べたいですね。
いくらでも食べたいです。
I was able to find a nice example from Satori Reader.
Nice.
That use of sorya. So let's find it here. Okay, come on.
Your browser's saying too many tabs, Brian. Too many tabs. There we go.
All right. Okay, so in this scene, the narrator is she's realizing that another character, Yuji-kun, hasn't stopped by to see her in a while. And she realizes that's because he's been working full time and now he has a girlfriend. And so in the previous sentence here, yeah, maybe we'll actually start with the previous sentence.
I see.
Okay.
私は、そっか、ユージ君はガールフレンドができたんだ、と思った。
So she goes, okay, そっか. So Yuji got a girlfriend. And then, okay, so then in this sentence, she lists the things that he's doing.
大工の仕事に、学校に、資格の勉強、そしてガールフレンド。
Okay, so in this sentence, we're using ni to mean like to this. So it's like adding to kind of a list of items. So she says, work as a carpenter, school, study for a qualification that he's trying to get, and now a girlfriend. And so putting that all together.
そりゃあ、私の家に来る暇はないはずだ。
So in that case, yeah, it makes sense that he would not have the free time, hima. 私の家に来る暇, the free time to come to my house はないはずだ. He should not have that time when you consider all of those things. So,
as expected. そりゃ無理です。
そりゃそうでしょ。
そりゃ無理でしょ。
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of like そりゃ無理でしょ or そりゃそうでしょ. That's probably a really good way to kind of like internalize this そりゃ.
そりゃそうでしょ. Thank you so much, the Red Ogre. I really appreciate that. You didn't have to do that. Almost missed out on this live stream. Konbanwa says the Red Ogre, and they popped in a donation for us. Thank you very much.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. If anyone is wondering why I'm not seeing these, I was worried about being too scatterbrained since this is my first live stream. So
that's why I'm telling Brian about some of the important messages.
Yes.
Let's just take a moment to see if there's anything.
Okay, absolutely.
Kita said Rachel. Thank you for coming in to say hello, Rachel. Mesas1 says, too many tabs? This is child's play. I have 6 windows open, which with at least twice as many tabs each. I guess I need help, says Mesas1. Thank you.
I'm going to close some
Another
of these,
new to me sentence ender. Hazuda. You'll learn about that one soon, Brittany, I think. But yeah, Hazuda. The Red Ogre just gifted 5 ToKini Andy memberships to chat. Thank you so much. That's so nice of you.
Wow, very generous.
Thank you. Live stream
Very
chat
cool.
distraction, I can relate, says Jeff. Yuki says, Arigato! All right, right over for the win. Let's see. Anything else we missed? Thank you so much. Appreciate that. 100ドーナツごちそうさまでした。お疲れ様です。says Jeff さん。
大丈夫ですか？
大丈夫じゃないかもしれない。
Let's try to use that that te shimau contraction and say he's going to have stomach upset. Sorry, I don't want to jinx you here, but お腹を
壊しちゃうよ。壊しちゃうぞ。
Right. Okay. So we had 壊してしまう, so that becomes 壊しちゃう. So yeah. Okay. I hope that doesn't happen to you.
I hope so too. I hope you also didn't really eat 100 donuts. But
that is true.
But if you did, I hope you made a YouTube video of it. That would
part
be
of the
really
equation. I didn't even consider he might not be telling the truth. Okay. So let's go on to another contraction that you'll hear nonstop in very casual speech. Now, this one does actually sound maybe a little bit too informal to use if you're trying to be polite.
Yes.
But it happens all the time. And that is, it's kind of like a little bit hard to explain, but when a ragyo character, and that means a character from the da line. And by the way, this character iku, normally we would read it iku or ko. One of the other readings for it is gyo, and a gyo is like a line of text. For example, gyokan means the space between 2 lines of text.
Right.
And reading between the lines is actually like gyokan wo yomu is there's a phrase there. But yeah. So ragyo means the ra ri ru re ro line, and nagyo means the nani nu ne no line. And when a character from the ragyo is directly followed by a character from the nagyo, a lot of times, mostly in some set patterns, that da sound or the ragyo sound will collapse to an So the one that everyone has heard is wakaranai becoming wakannai.
Wakannai yo.
Wakannai yo.
Wakannai. Sonar says wakannai. Shiran.
Right. So that's another one, right? Just night, the night ending can just collapse down to So wakaranai can become wakaran. Shiranai can become shiran. And that happens a little bit more.
Yuru-san.
Yuru-san.
Yuru-san zo.
Again, that can sound a little rough, so
very,
be careful.
Very much so.
But definitely fun for joking around, as long as your friend knows you're joking around.
Yep.
But yeah, so this can happen. It's not just like la. It can happen with other characters. Shinjirarenai can become shinjirannai. That's kind of saying it in a little bit of a pouty. Because you will hear this in a pouty voice sometimes. Shinjirannai yo.
I've heard this with like a gyaru.
Yes.
It sounds very gyaru, that one.
Getting a little bit of my like gyaru imitation there. But this one happens just all the time for present progressive. Like, so let's say we have nani o yatte iru no? What are you doing? And so it might be contracted twice, really. Probably it would be first we would drop the o, and we would also contract yatteiru to just yatteru. And I didn't cover that contraction because I thought people would probably be very familiar with that.
Yeah.
Any present progress or any progressive tense that you will
Teiru,
drop
you can
out.
often drop the e in conversation. Yeah, that's the main thing.
Okay. So we get nani yatteru no, and what we have here is this ru standing right up against a no, and it's just a little bit hard to say. I mean, it's not that hard, but ru no nani o yatteru no, and it's a lot easier to say nani yatten no.
I am guilty of using this literally every day, all the time. I almost never say teiru. I'm always nani yatten no.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's really easy. It happens in conversation all the time. Nani kangaeten no? Or, right? So let's translate that one for everyone. That would be.
Nani o kangaete iru n desu ka?
Sure. Yeah.
Nani o yatten no?
Yeah. And actually, you can use these with desu ka if you wanted to. Nani kangaeten desu ka?
Well, I guess it would be desu ka, right? Yeah, in there. Nani o
Right.
yatte imasu
Yeah.
ka? I guess it would be nani o kangaete imasu ka would be a little bit better, but nani o kangaete iru n desu ka could also fit it, I guess.
Yeah. So, and then I guess I forgot to kind of translate this one, but shinjirarenai literally means it is not possible to believe, and also is just sort of a reaction word, unbelievable.
Right. Shinjirannai.
Right.
How could you?
I cannot believe it. It's really, what it means. So, yeah, shinjirarenai. So, shinjirannai. I can't believe it.
I can't believe you would do
Did
such a thing, Brian.
Exactly.
Shinjirannai.
Okay, so here's another one. Nani o itteiru no collapses to nani itteru no, and further down to nani itten no. So I put on my angry voice a little bit there.
It definitely sounds a little angry.
Yeah, that I can't really imagine a non-angry version of it, because you're not asking like, what did you say? You're saying like, what are you saying?
Right. Yeah, someone says this to you, they're not asking you to repeat yourself.
Right, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
They're calling you a moron.
Right.
Nani tenno?
Yeah, omae will probably come next after that.
Probably.
So let's see some examples of that. So I like this set because we have some excited Japanese here. Alrighty, let's see here. Okay, so here, wow, it's highlighted. I didn't highlight the sentence. I just have this one little section. Nani itten no? But let's hear that in context. Here, Akiko is hearing her ex-husband tell her some stuff that she doesn't really agree with.
私が、はあ？何言ってんの？なんで私にそんなに仕事を辞めてほしいわけ？と聞くと。
Okay.
And then と聞くと。
Yeah.
The contrast there is
back
great.
into narration mode. Yeah. So ha is like huh? Like huh? Nani tenno? What are you talking about? What are you saying? But what are you talking about is kind of what it feels like in natural English. And why do you want me to quit work that much? なんで私にそんなに仕事を辞めてほしいわけ? Yeah. Okay. That final wake, kind of like asking for a reason.
Right.
Yeah. But okay, so there's that nani tenno. I think we have some more fun examples of that here.
Nani tenno?
Oh, this one's even better. Okay, we got two of them head to head.
All right.
Okay, and this is like actually sort of like almost like a fight scene. So yeah, get ready.
何してんのって聞いてんのよ。あんた、公平の何なの？と、女は京子の肩を突き飛ばした。
Okay, so 何してんの? If we kind of revert that back to more correct, like textbook correct Japanese, that would be Andy-san.
Which one? One more time?
Sorry, am I catching you off guard?
Yeah.
何してんの?
何してる何をしていますか?
Yeah. Or 何をしているの? If we stay like low.
Right.
And then って聞いてんのよ. So what is she saying there?
と聞いているよと聞いているんだよかな?
Right. Yeah. 聞いているのだよ would be like the fullest form. But yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So what are you doing? I'm asking you, what are you doing? Is what she's saying. 何してんのって聞いてんのよ. So
I'm asking you, what on earth are you doing?
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. So moving to another example here, because I just love to hear people are yelling at each other. It's kind of fun.
Can be.
It's fun when you're not part of it.
Absolutely, yes. Just watching from the sidelines.
Right.
何考えてんだよ
So there we have kind of a
考えてんだよ。
right. Something similar to what we saw. 何を考えているんだよ. What are you thinking? And itai is almost like it's like what on earth or what the hell? Yeah. So what on earth are you thinking? And he goes the extra mile and adds yo at the end of a question, which just automatically like amps up the heat, I guess.
A little bit, yeah. It's a little bit aggressive.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, it makes it. I mean, yo is really for statements mostly. So it kind of like turns it turns your question, what is theoretically a question, into more of like a statement.
Right.
Like, what are you doing? Whatever it is not correct.
It's not good. It's not good.
Yeah.
There was actually, it was interesting on in the Japanese dictionary for yo. I noticed this a couple of weeks ago, which is why I want to bring it up, or a couple months ago, I guess. I was looking it up, and one of the entries, this is elementary school, Japanese kindergarten, it says, Kando no kimochi wo arawasu kotoba, that yo. So if you throw it at the end, it's literally just adding more emotion behind it. And that's kind of, I guess, why it can be there, eh?
Right. Yeah. And I think it's important for people to understand it doesn't add like emotion to every sentence.
Right.
If
no. Yeah.
It's a certain kind of sentence that it does that. If you're just saying like, この席空いてますよ, you know, this seat is available. It's not like this seat is so available.
right.
That's just like the new information. I call it the new information.
Yes.
It's like, oh, let me give you this new information that it seems like you don't have it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's the main usage of yo that most people will expect. And then they see it here and they're like, this is new information? No,
right.
This is the emotional one.
Right, exactly. After like a command or, you know, ikeo or something like that, then yeah, it's just sort of like it adds that emotion.
Right.
Although you can still, I think you can take it back, you can work it back in your mind to the new information. Like, I'm telling you, ikeo, like go. Right. Like, apparently you don't know that you need to go.
Right.
So let me enlighten you. Go, right?
Right.
So I think that's kind of where it comes from, that more heated use of it. But yeah.
Makes sense.
So, okay. So let's go to another sentence here. Our last one for this. Okay. So here's another one that's very similar to what we've been seeing.
何言ってんだよお前
Okay.
Brian, can you hit the just for someone in chat, can you hit the little translation button you have at the end of that sentence so they can see? This is something that's on Satori Reader. If you click on the end of each sentence, you can see the translations, and often there will be grammar explanations and stuff there as well. So yeah, there's no need to read them as fast as we're reading them here if you were reading them on your own.
Yes, and I apologize if we're going too quickly.
No. Like I said, there's various levels of people always in the chat. Some people are complete beginners. Obviously, it'll be fast for them, and some people are way ahead, so it'll be too slow for them. So yeah, it's a very keeping it balanced here, I guess. But they were just asking. Someone just mentioned that Satori Reader has translations, and I just wanted you to show them that. So
okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, and our translations are typically pretty literal leaning. I guess I could have made this one more literal by making it "What are you saying?" instead of "What are you talking about?" But we do try to capture the structure, the underlying structure of the Japanese as much as possible without just making it sound completely robotically hard to read. Because we know that people are going to be looking at this and like trying to like map it back to like, oh, okay, how did that Japanese get to this English?
Right.
So yeah.
Jeff San asks, like, do people really talk like this in Japan, depending on the relationship? Like, are these family conversations?
Yeah.
I would say some of them, some of them are arguments. Most of these are arguments, I'd say. But
yeah, I mean, the ones that I picked, the last couple ones, but yeah, definitely. I mean, people get angry or emotional, in Japan too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a very peaceful place, but not all the time.
Yeah.
And various relationships have just the same exact problems as everywhere else in the world.
And I mean, people also do the angry thing, like mock angry.
Yeah.
And nani ittenda? Like, what are you talking about? Like
people just messing around when they're out drinking or whatever. Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's not like everybody's just like, they're having like karate fights
all the time.
Yeah. So
what? Japanese people get angry? No. Chopa says, I'm getting anime vibes from these examples. I like it. Ha ha ha.
Good. Yes. Good. Well, we discovered with Satori Reader, we started out early on. We had just news and like dialogues, people at the train station. And we found that people were just much more drawn in when it was a story. And you identify with the characters and you start to care. You care about what happens. And when you care, everything is much more meaningful.
And memorable and interesting.
And
you want to go to the next page instead of it feeling just like study.
Yeah, exactly. And those voices ring in your head. That's why I love that, the performances where the actor really gets into it. Yeah, it makes you want to like actually literally like imitate it down to like the like sound in your voice and everything.
Yep.
So yeah. So check out Satori Reader if you're interested. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so getting into the next thing, the multi-talented te. So most basically, te is simply a drop-in replacement for to. So as an example sentence could be like, 彼女は大丈夫だよって言った. So that te would more normally perhaps be a to. 彼女は大丈夫だよと言った. She said, it's okay. And they've changed it to te, which actually, in a way, it's like a reverse contraction because it actually got longer in time.
Yep. Even literally, right? Because like not just in writing does it look longer. There's literally an extra more in there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so people might wonder why on earth someone would go to the trouble of changing something to make it longer. And I think that part of it is just that there's a casual factor to te. But I think there's a functional aspect too. It creates this like little air buffer around the quote, which kind of like brings it like off the page or out of the stream a little bit, establishes it, 彼女は大丈夫だよって言った, right? Like it's separate. So that kind of hint can be kind of useful.
Right. It gives a little bit of space. The Red Ogre asks, how is that small te pronounced? And you just heard Brian say it, I think. But if we were to read that little part slowly, 大丈夫だよって. So there's that little bit of space in between the previous part and the te itself. Another thing I was thinking about with why maybe this is used is we actually were talking about it earlier with which was it? I can't remember what with soria instead of sorewa. And I feel like Japanese language speakers in general will do anything they can to not round their lips.
It's true. It's true.
Anything. Even
People
make
talk
it
like
longer.
this a lot.
Yeah. So the to, like the whole thing, I'll bring myself up on screen again. The to, the whole thing from beginning to end, you're rounding your lips. To. And then te is just like this. Dayo te. So not only I agree with what you said, it adds that buffer of between the actual quote and the te. But also a bonus, you don't have to round your lips.
Yeah. And honestly, it is easier for that reason. And also your tongue in with it's like so far back in your mouth. Like for me, when I would get like tired, like when I was trying to like learn, because it's very different from in English. Like and the tongue goes back a little bit, but then it kind of like curves into like an ooh sound at the end. But like is like way back there, whereas te is just right in the front of your mouth, so it is easier to pronounce. But okay, so we've got this sentence. Let's try the next one. この本はすごく面白いって友達から聞いた。So as for this book, I heard from a friend that it's incredibly interesting. すごく面白いって友達から聞いた。So,
for those of you who are wondering, I get questions about this sometimes. You have 面白いって友達から聞いた, and they're like, well, where's that te attaching to? And of course, it attaches to the 聞いた. So this is actually an interesting point of just this sort of conversational thing that people wouldn't expect either. It's 友達からこの本はすごく面白いって聞いた would be what you sort of a complete beginner would sort of expect. Not complete beginner because they're already up to this sentence. But yeah, you can actually throw the speaker right in the middle of the to and the kita. That tends to throw people off sometimes, but very common, eh?
Yeah, no, you're right. So like this unit right here, tomodachi kara, that could kind of move to the beginning or
to the end.
Yeah, you can move these units, pretty well. The only one you really can't move without it becoming an inversion is kita.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, and I got one quick example for you from Yu-Yu-san. Okay, oops, did I open that?
I think so.
No, yeah, I keep doing control click, like I think I need to do that, and it doesn't do anything. Okay. Okay, so this is part of Yu-Yu-san explaining, explaining his background a little bit.
All right.
And he's going to use this keizai, which is economics. So that might be kind of a new word for people. Hopefully the rest of the sentence is pretty understandable. So let's give this a listen.
大学で経済を勉強していて、なんか経済あんまり好きじゃないなって思ってしまったので。
Hey.
All right.
Can you do one more thing for me quickly? Can you go up to the speed and drop it down for us?
Okay, sure. Let's hear this at 0.8.
大学で経済を勉強していて、なんか経済あんまり好きじゃないなって思ってしまったので。
That kind of sounds fun. Okay.
Yeah. That does make it more approachable, right? So he says, at college, I was studying economics, and he thought to himself, nanka, it's like kind of, this is almost like a hesitation sound too.
Kind of like, I like to think of it sort of as like a Valley Girl, like.
Like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. 経済あんまり好きじゃないな. I don't like economics that much. って思ってしまったので. All right. So, hey, here's a nice place where we could have contracted that.
So, 思っちゃったので. Oh, wait.
No, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it. 思っちゃったので. That could be a contraction of that, but he kept it in its full form. But yeah, so you can hear how there's a little bit of time buffer there between those two. If we just actually play that part again, I'll go back.
待って、経済あんまり好きじゃないなって思ってしまったので、まあそこからね、ダブルスクール。
Okay. But so that's the sort of most basic use of te. But te can do some other things too. So it can imply a verb of saying or thinking in basically whatever tense is appropriate to the sentence. So just like te by itself can be short for teiyu, teitta, teitteiru, or te omou, te omotta, te omotteiru. So basically just like I said that previous thing that I'm quoting right now, or I thought that things. And probably the easiest way to understand it is going to just to see some examples here. So let's try this one. 彼女も行きたいって. So this is the quotation marker here quoting this 彼女も行きたい. Well, really just 行きたい. So she too
Right. She's
says she wants to go.
Right.
And so this is really short for 行きたいと言っている. She is saying that she wants to go.
Right.
Too. And the next one here, 昨日、マリコさんと話していたんだけど、このレストランはすごく美味しいって。
美味しいと言っていた。
Exactly, yeah. Yesterday, I was talking with マリコさんと話していたんだけど、and this kind of just lays the foundation for what the speaker wants to say next, which is, このレストランはすごく美味しいって。Right. Okay. So this restaurant is really delicious.
She said. Right. She says.
Yeah. She says. Okay. So, yeah. How's that for everybody?
Yeah.
Everyone following along?
I think so. Yep.
Okay. Okay. So here's where we start to get a little bit more interesting, and that is that te can be used in the X to U Y pattern, just taking the place of that entire phrase.
This is the one that really confuses people, I think, when they first see it for the first time. Like, what?
When you first see it, because you see like two nouns like smashed up together with like te between them. And you're like, what? That doesn't even... Is this Japanese?
What is the quote?
Yeah, exactly. But X to U Y, that pattern means... a Y that you would say as X, which means a Y that's called X or, well, let's see some examples.
Yeah. That'll be much easier.
Actually, before we get to the examples, maybe I could just I'll just open Word and kind of, I realized maybe we should break this down a little bit. Like, so if we said, oh man, my speaker's in the way here. Am I in Japanese keyboard layout? Okay.
Yes, you are.
Okay, Suzuki Toyu. Okay, so this would be
a person called Suzuki.
Yes, exactly. A person who you say Suzuki. Basically, it's like a very literal breakdown, right?
Right.
Like if you were to say it, you would say Suzuki, and it's that person.
Right. That's
I like to put in like a little arrow here to kind of see that this is actually the thing. This is a description of the thing. どんな人? Suzuki という人. Right? Or another one might be, I don't know, what's the name of an anime? Like, すごいことばかり, or, you know.
If it's not the title of an anime, it should be すごいことばかり, nothing but amazing things.
That's the title of my anime, okay?
All right. Coming soon to Satori Reader. すごいことばかり, the anime.
Yeah. So this is the thing. It's an anime called Only Awesome Things.
Only Awesome
すごいこ
Things.
とばかりという
Nimisa Fish says, wow, that little arrow is so
it's
useful.
Going to be
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Our Kenny on our team is a proofreader on our team, and he introduced this to me a couple of years ago, and I just fell in love with it because it really helps when you're breaking down like relative clauses and stuff. That's what I use it a lot for, you know. So if it's like 銀行に行った矢印, if you do 矢印, it'll give you lots, but once you choose the rightmost one, that'll come up first.
Yeah, I always type migi. I use it a lot when I'm doing corrections.
One second. You can do stuff like this, and then that'll.
Hold on 1 second. Breaking up. 1 second. 1 second. We're losing Brian. Hold on. Let's give it a second here. Stop my virtual recording. All right. All right. Try something now. Uh-oh.
Oh, are you?
Let's go over to here. Tiny me, big Brian.
Oh, maybe I'm.
Jeff says, no, Brian. Uh-oh. Let's see. Okay, I've gotten everything taken care of over here, so we should be good. Start virtual camera. Oh, you didn't want to see that. Don't stop that. Oh, we lost Brian, guys. Oh, no. So now I'm talking to myself in an image. Anyway, I hope you guys are enjoying our stream today. We'll get Brian back in a moment. I'm going to, let's see, I'll go to this. That's better. Now you don't see double me. When we get Brian back, let's go ahead and take this off here. We will continue with what we're working on today. We've been learning lots of different expressions that you're going to see in conversation all of the time, but that you probably won't get in textbooks very often. There he is. Okay, he's back. We got you. All right, you are back. Okay, we lost you for a second. All right, he's back. So I'm going to stop talking now. All right,
Sorry,
we're back over
everybody.
here.
I don't know what happened.
All good, all good. It happens sometimes.
Okay. So, yes. 銀行に行った人。
We got to have you share your screen again, by the way.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yes.
The red ogre says, juicy. Nope, we're going to keep going.
Okay, let me share sound. Okay. Boom. All right. Have you got me now?
I've got you now. Yuki says,
Okay.
Brian という日本語の先生. Indeed,
そう
indeed,
そうそう。
indeed. Yes.
そんな感じ。
Exactly.
よくできました。Okay, so yeah, so that's the basic pattern that we're dealing with here with this X to U Y pattern. And it turns out that this te can actually replace this entire chunk right here. And that will often just, well, it does result in just two nouns like sitting right next to each other. So, oops, oh, I was going to try to highlight, but I guess I can't do it in the slide here. But so we have Sakura te uta. A song called Sakura.
Indeed. Everyone
Sakura?
loves that song. I don't think I've ever
Sakura.
actually heard it.
本当?
I don't think so. What's the real title of it again? I can't remember.
Well, maybe we're thinking of different ones. I was just thinking of like Sakura.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Maybe different, yeah.
Maybe that's Sakura. I don't know.
Could be.
But yes, okay. So reading this whole sentence, it's Sakura te uta o kita koto aru? Have you heard the song that's called Sakura? Okay.
I have not.
Or the next one here being something very similar to what we saw a second ago in Word. Suzuki te hito ga kimi o sagashite ta yo. So a person, remember this is the main thing, a person who is called Suzuki, a person who you would say as Suzuki is searching for you. Okay, and then
the reason that someone might say that is if they were to just say Suzuki-san ga kimi o sagashite ita yo, that would assume that the person who's giving you that information already knows who Suzuki-san is, and that they know that you already know who they are. But this is like, so a person called Suzuki-san, I don't know who they are. Maybe you do, but I'm not sure. But anyway, they're looking for you. So it sort of adds that nuance, I guess, to it.
Right. Yeah. No. Good call. Yeah. I mean, I guess it would be like saying, Mark called for you versus a person called Mark called for you, right? Like, yeah. If you just said Mark and that person didn't know a Mark, they'd be
Who's
like,
Mark?
Who's
I don't know. They called you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then our last example here, Super Pineapple ってゲーム知ってる?
Oh. You don't know Super Pineapple 知ってる? Does anyone know the game Super Pineapple? Somebody made a sentence just now, actually. It's perfect timing. Bob というスポンジ. There you go, yeah.
That is perfect.
He's from the movie Super Pineapple. No, the game, yeah.
Right. Okay, yes. So the question, do you know the game Super Pineapple? Which, if anybody does, that's amazing because I just made this up. Okay, so and then the last kind of cool thing that you can do with te is actually it is used a lot as a kind of topic marker.
Yeah. This is the one actually, more so even than the last one, that really throws off people who are learning with us. It's a very hard one to explain too. Let's see what you got.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so an example sentence that I like to go to a lot is this kanji te muzukashii ne. And so kanji te, you can take that to be short for if you wanted to. Kanji te yu mono, like the thing called kanji.
Right.
But that's what it does. It just sort of sets up that thing that you marked as like this topic, really.
Right.
Like now when it comes to kanji, And then usually what comes after it is some kind of emotional reaction. Not usually, but often. I'll say often. 漢字って難しいね。Or あの人ってすごいね。You know, it's kind of that kind of thing. Let's see. Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's basically a topic marker. That is the shortened version of, right? ということor というもの. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So Yu uses this a lot. So if we go into his podcast here, we have one right here. Okay, and then the part we're going to be looking at. What does everybody think? Should I put it on
normal speed is
slow?
fine. I just wanted to show people that it was possible. That's fine.
Okay, cool. Thank you. The part that we're going to be looking at is right here. 猫ちゃんって。So here we go.
はい、本当にね、猫ちゃんって可愛いですよね。もし猫好きの人がいたら友達になりましょうね。はい。
All right. So
喜んで
友達になりましょう。
なります。
So 猫ちゃんって可愛いですよね。That kind of follows that same pattern that we saw. 漢字って and then some kind of like reaction to it or like, you know, some kind of
not so much a judgment but sort of, like
I
feeling
think
about it.
I think judgment is fair. Like usually there is some kind of it's usually not just a fact, but like how you feel about it.
Right.
Like that. Yeah. So so that's very common, and it's not the only thing. You can also I think I have another example of that, and it's actually used. I promised you that he does this a lot. He really does. So here's another fun one.
もともとね、なんかそういう風に人生って何なんだろうなとかって考えるのも実は大好きです。はい。
Okay, so the part that we're talking about is this人生 that's like life. 人生って何なんだろうな. So we kind of like establishes this thing called life.
Right.
What is it?
とかって考えるのも。
Yes, and that actually is something that I feel it's a slightly unique. I mean, it's not unique. A lot of other people do it too, but Yu-san does this a lot where he combines toka with te. So because toka actually does already include the quotation particles.
Right,
so,
toka.
Right. You don't really need to have them both. Like theoretically, you could just be, you know, 人生って何なんだろうなとか考えるのも。
Yeah. Yep.
Right. But he likes to say toka te. But in that case, what he's really just using toka as like the sort of and stuff like that.
Right. Almost
discarding.
Almost a filler, almost. I know that I tend to use it too much as somewhat of a filler. Yeah.
It's kind of easy to go to kind of yeah. But okay, so we got kind of a twofer there. We have this just regular quotation to here, or te, and sort of the topic marker te over there. So let's see here, moving along. Another thing that So another thing that you can use this te for is as a casual topic marker. A lot of times when you're sort of like out of the blue asking somebody about something, you know, like
this is good.
We all learn in the textbook, like if you're going to ask for a convenience store, it'd be like この近くにコンビニがありますか? Or something like that. But a lot of times, Japanese people will use te instead there, and it's almost like, so let's try the sentence together first. この近くにコンビニってありますか?
Yep. I don't think I've used a ga in this situation in probably 8 to 10 years. Yeah, it's always the te arimasu ka.
You've switched over
every time.
Yeah, and but it's doing that sort of same thing where you're like konbini te yu mono, like you're like there's this thing called like a convenience store. Like, is there one around here?
Right.
So in this vicinity, a thing called a convenience store. Is there one? And so here's another way. Let's say you're in the supermarket. This is a great time to use it. You need to ask, you know, if they sell something. すみません、歯ブラシって売ってますか?
Yep.
So, yeah. So
well, that one's super useful. I don't even know how I picked it up, but yeah, it's super useful. It sounds much more natural too.
It does. It feels very
Spoken.
much like,
Right.
yeah, spoken.
When
yeah.
speaking, of course. I wouldn't write this, obviously.
Yeah, I
but-
wouldn't put it in an email
Right.
or something like
Right.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
Brian って仕事終わった
Right. Like CC the bucho.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean,
部長って来る? Yeah, no, not quite. But
and that's
it
kind of
makes
maybe
sense.
it's kind of an interesting thing maybe to point out to people that like there are these different registers and written communication, even if it's an email to someone that you're fairly close to, it does tend to go up a notch
Yes.
in terms of politeness.
Mesas1 asks, would this be okay for SNS? And I would say yes.
Yeah,
Especially if
definitely.
it's among friends. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. This is very, very safe. Like, I mean, these are questions that you're asking a stranger on the street. So
Right.
yeah, it's fine. It's just like if it were a business email,
Right.
that's what I meant really. Like
Yeah.
usually you're trying to like, straighten your tie and
Right.
have everything be nice and crisp, So
I think it does throw people off a little bit sometimes with the te, which they might think of as somewhat informal, being combined with mas forms here. But you can rest assured that, like Brian just said, you're using this with random people on the street that you've never met. So along with mas forms, so it's perfectly fine.
yeah. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Before we jump into inversions, I'm really sorry.
Yes.
You can start if you want, but I
Okay.
need to run to the bathroom. So let's take a quick bathroom break,
Okay.
and be back in like 2 minutes. You can just.
Okay. Well,
Either
maybe
talk
I'll
to
take
me.
a little break here too.
Okay,
So
sweet.
yeah, we'll see everybody back.
We'll be back in like
minutes.
2 minutes, guys. Okay.
Don't
2
go
minutes.
anywhere. Okay.
Back in 2 minutes. I'm back. Is everyone still here? It looks like they are. There was this other day where I was trying to play an RPG in Japanese here, and I was getting this error message when trying to save my game. And when I tried to read and translate it, it just said, "Write error." Error messages, as always, are extremely vague. Indeed. All right, here we are. Ando gambatte, says Misasone. This has been a fantastic stream topic so far. Thank you both, says Mark Sands. All right. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Have you guys learned anything new so far? Let us know what has been new to you so far. Brian, Mark Sands says, this has been a fantastic stream topic so far. Thank you both. Yeah. And then Red Ogre says, Wanigani hasn't taught me toothbrush yet, though. So, LOL, just teeth. They probably won't. I don't think. They don't teach many katakana words, I don't think. But, hisashiburi. Kanji, yeah, of course. What else? We talking about an error message here. Lucky for me, for the Andy's live streams. Hi. Still early on the West Coast, right? It's getting a bit late on East Coast, I guess, eh? People in Europe, I don't know, what time is it for those of you who are over in Europe? Woo-woo! Probably not too many people from Europe over here, but sometimes there are. I get people coming in that are like, oh, it's 4 a.m., I better go to bed now. I was like, why are you still here?
That it's going to be too hard or too basic or, you know.
Right.
So
I just realized that they couldn't hear you at all. Sorry, guys.
okay.
No, it's my fault. It was my fault. I was on the wrong screen.
Are we back on?
Yeah, all good.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to say to everybody, thank you very much for watching, and I'm glad that it sounds like the content's been useful for people. I worry a lot as a teacher. Is it going to be too hard? Is it going to be too easy?
It is hard to find that balance when you're not teaching like just one specific topic.
Like you're in a flow.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It
With
could be
a
hard
group
to
of
find that level.
people. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So, okay. Well, cool. Shall we jump back in?
Yeah, let's get back into it. Here we go.
Okay.
Wait, that's the wrong one. There it is. Okay. Sweet.
Okay. So what we're going to talk about next is inversions. And what inversions is just a fancy way of saying stuff out of order. But we're not referring to the inherent flexibility of word order in Japanese, where, you can say, watashi wa koen ni ikimashita, or you can say, koen ni watashi wa ikimashita. That's not what we're referring to with inversions.
Okay.
What we're referring to really is where stuff is like truly in the wrong order. Because really the one ironclad rule with Japanese is, although you can move around, elements that are marked by their particles to pretty much, you have a great deal of flexibility with that. But the one thing that you really can't move is the verb at the end of the sentence, right?
Right.
And so what happens sometimes, though, is people will complete a sentence, they get all the way to the verb and past the verb, and they go like, whoops, I wanted to say something else in there. Like they'll say like, ikimashita, koen ni, or something like that, right? So that koen ni should have kind of been earlier. But of course, this happens just because of the pure fact that we are puny humans and trying to deal with all the stuff that's in our head and like get it out is sometimes tricky.
It's kind of tricky or difficult, or you just forget.
Yeah. Or sometimes people have a reaction and that's the thing that comes out first. So like in this example here, like, "Nan desu ka, kore wa?" It's like they saw something and the first thing they want to say is just like, "Nan desu ka?" Right? And then the kind of kore wa is like this afterthought.
Right. This.
Tagged on.
What? This.
What is it? This thing.
Right.
Yeah. Or mita ima no kuruma. Did you see it? The car just now.
Right.
So it's like they had this reaction. They were so excited that they just wanted to say like, "Mita?" Like, and then they realized, whoops, like that's not enough information for
What did I see?
Right, for the person. So they go back and tack it on.
Right.
And so these can take, pretty much you can tack on pretty much anything. So I try to kind of create a little variety here. But how about this one? 大丈夫だよ、ちょっと遅れても.
Right. Completely reversed.
Right.
Hey, what's okay? It's okay to be late. Alex Bogus says, "Wow, this is such a comforting thing to hear as a language learner. Knowing you can add what you meant after the fact. Not something to rely on, but good to have in your tool belt." Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Definitely. And people do that a lot. I think sometimes people even just do it on purpose. Like if they want to like elevate this one, like this one right here. Okay, so let's translate this for everyone.
Yeah.
It kind of should have been ちょっと遅れても大丈夫だよ. Even if we're a little bit late, it will be okay.
Right.
But they kind of like wanted to get this 大丈夫だよ part out first, right? Like maybe the person they're talking to is
yeah.
Exactly. And they're like, 大丈夫だよ, 大丈夫だよ, ちょっと遅れても. Yeah. And that's really the kind of key to understanding all of these inversions is that sort of like prioritization of like that one thing.
Right.
So here in the next one is like, let's say you're searching for something. And when you find what you've been searching for in Japanese, you use the past tense of aru, atta, or if it's a person, ita, not only a person, but maybe an animal or something.
It existed.
Yeah.
It existed.
It's kind of like saying, there it was.
Right.
Maybe a way of translating
that makes sense.
But so, of course, when you find those keys that you've been looking for, probably the very first thing out of your mouth is going to be, atta! Watashi no kagi ga konna tokoro ni.
こんなところに私の鍵があった would be the like everything's all reverse.
Yeah, no, it's funny that you took it that way too, because I also saw this as sort of a double inversion. Even though technically, 私の鍵がこんなところにあった is totally correct.
Yeah,
but I feel like the level of thought backtracking really is like あった私の鍵が Oh, by the way, こんなところに
Yeah, because you could think of the pauses being a little bit longer there. あった私の鍵がこんなところに right. Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yep.
Feels like a double inversion.
And that stuff really does happen a lot. I mean, I think you could probably stack like 4 or 5 of them.
Oh yeah.
And it would still be totally understandable. And it just kind of it actually gives you a little window into the psychology of the speaker.
Right.
Because unlike the ordering of like the pieces in a correctly formed sentence, the inversions, they feel slightly, well, I mean, they're not correct sentences, right? They're sentences that are out of order, but and the speaker experiences them that way. But they are correct in the sense that everybody does it and everyone knows how to understand it. So I'm not saying like, don't use this or anything like that. But it gives you this window into what the speaker was like most excited about or most wanted to get out of their mouth.
Yes.
I got a few more of these. So you want to do a couple of these?
Yeah, sure. 僕も行きたかったよ、すごく。I also wanted to go a lot. Like that.
Exactly. Yep.
ダメだよ。そんなことをするのは。
Yes, I like this one because I remember being a learner and being like, what? Yeah, I would say like no wa, like at the end of a sentence with a maru after it, you know, like in a manga or something. Yeah, and you're like,
why is it ending on a particle?
How can that?
Or is that noha?
Happen?
Noha?
Right. But what really the speaker wanted to say is そんなことをするのはダメだよ. Right. But so ダメだよ was clearly at the top of mind. And so they just blurted it, ダメだよそんなことをするのは. And actually the way that I delivered it right now, that's kind of a common theme to these inversions. You'll almost always hear that they're like at 2 levels. You know, like there's what they wanted to say, and then there's like, whoops, you'll put the other one on at a much lower level.
Right.
So, ダメだよ、そんなことをするのは. Or going back, you know, 見た？あの車、今の車. It's kind of like, it's almost like in an undertone.
Right.
And so that can be a little sort of like a audio clue to you that, oh, okay, that was supposed to go in the front. So yeah, let's go on to the next one. Why don't you do this one?
Right. いつだったっけ最後に言ったのは when was the last time? When was it? Last time we met. Or last time 最後に言ったのは last time we went to some place.
Nice.
The topic is
exactly.
last time we went.
Yeah. So the correctly ordered version of this would be 最後に言ったのはいつだったっけ? Right. But that's like a very cool, calm, and collected person who's building their sentences.
right.
Whereas this person was just like, いつだったっけ? 最後に言ったのは. Right. Okay.
Yeah, otherwise, if you just had いつだったっけ? And the person would be like, what?
What are you talking about? Yeah.
What is when? 最後に言ったのは.
Yeah. My wife does that to me like all the time. She'll be like, なんだったっけあれ? And I'll be like,
yeah.
I
Are is not enough information.
don't know what you're talking about.
It happens a lot. It'll be like a conversation from 3 days ago that they replayed in their head at that moment, and then it comes out as like it was 3 seconds ago. And you're just like, huh? Yep,
Right.
yep.
Okay. And the last one here would be 変な人だと思われているよ。絶対。
Mm.
So I am being thought of as a strange person, a weird person.
Mm.
And then they add 絶対 at the end.
Definitely. 絶対変な人だと思われているよ. But then I almost wonder in this case, and this is as much of a question as like a feeling. In this sentence in particular, in the other sentences, I feel like what was tacked on later was like not less important, but as you said, sort of a level down. But in this case, specifically, I almost feel like the zettai feels stronger here. I don't know why. It's like, 変な人だと思われてるよ. Zettai. Definitely. I don't know why. I don't know why, but most of the time.
No, I get that too. Yeah, I guess it's because the speaker went out of their way to like put it on there, like you know, and in that now final position, they can like give it a lot of oomph, right?
Right.
Yeah.
In this specific situation only, but yeah.
Zettai. Well, it's like they wanted to like kind of drive the point home, so they.
Zettai. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And for anyone who's curious as to why zettai is being used as an adverb in this case, really zettai is acting on omowareteru, or definitely being thought of. Zettai is one of the few words that can function as an adverb even without ni on the end. One of the few. Usually, if you want to use a non-conjugating adjective, so that would be a word like maybe tashika or honto. You need to add ni on the end. Honto ni sugoi desu ne, or tashika ni ikimashita, or something like that. But zettai actually can just function on its own. Zettai omoshiroi to omou yo, or something like that. It's gonna definitely be interesting, I think.
Right.
Would be that one. So, okay. All right. So yes, as we were mentioning, the inversions often kind of come down a step in terms of the tone, but there's a different kind of inversion that also happens if there's been like a longer pause after the quote unquote real sentence. And a lot of times if there's a ne at the end of like a half sentence, like nantoka dakara ne, or like dakedo ne, or something like that, that ne is kind of like, it means like, whatever I just said, this thing was supposed to go over here. Or sometimes it can mean like, you can imagine the rest of this sentence, but it like hints that there's some stuff that's missing.
Right.
So if we take an example of that, it would be like, 今日の試合は中止になった。maru. Like the speaker ends the sentence and then could say, 雨が降ったからね. Because it rained.
Right.
What I said previously.
Right.
So the correctly ordered sentence would be 雨が降ったから今日の試合は中止になった. Because it rained, today's match was canceled.
Right.
It became canceled.
Became canceled. Yeah, that's always fun one. 中止になった。はい、今日の試合は中止になった。雨が降ったからね。そうだね。
Right.
So
here's another one. 昨日のパーティーに行けなかったんだよ。めちゃくちゃ行きたかったけどね。
かわいそうに。
So the correctly ordered sentence would have been めちゃめちゃ行きたかったけど、昨日のパーティーに行けなかったんだよ。
ダンブ says すごく役に立つよ、この配信は。
すごい。
いいね。Good sentence.
早速使ってますね。
Very good.
Yes.
Please feel free to try any of the things that Brian has brought up today in the chat.
Yes.
We're happy to take a look at those. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. Put that stuff to use.
We should have been doing that from the beginning. I didn't even think of it. Oh well.
Yeah. Well, we can do a review or
Better
something
late than
later.
never. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then just to translate this one, I couldn't go to yesterday's party. And then the speaker realizes, oh, I wanted to say, I really, really wanted to go, but I couldn't go.
Right.
But what I said earlier,
Yeah.
basically.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So here's another one. I try to use different endings to my my example sentences here. So
Come to Japan dance. Yes, this is it. Kind of think like Yoda. It's kind of like Yoda speak. To the party, I
totally.
really wanted to go. I don't know. What was the last sentence? I can't remember. But anyway.
It is, yeah.
Yesterday, party, I could not go. Really, I wanted to, though. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. 最近バイトを始めたんだ。新しいスマホを買いたくてね。So, if
It's
we
almost
were
like it's almost like the ne over there at the end is almost functioning like a kara at the end of a sentence. 新しいスマホを買いたいから。Almost.
Yeah. But even after kara, like we saw here,
well, you can still have it there. Yeah.
I think what's functioning in this sentence as the connector is the kaitakute. Yeah, the kute ending.
Definitely. Yep.
Right. So if you say, I want to do something and therefore something else, it means I want to do it. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. So very like most literally, it's just the joining of the two things. Like I want to do it. So it's sorry, in this case, I want to buy a smartphone and I started a part-time job. But in that kind of relationship, usually it hints that the relationship is and therefore. Yeah.
Right. Someone asked me about that actually last week. They were like, wait a second, why isn't this just kara? And I was like, well, technically, yeah, you're right. It is just, and I'm doing this, but like, you can kind of just sort of know that the that the connection is there. Like it's very clear from the context.
Yeah, I mean, certainly you could have said, 新しいスマホを買いたいから、最近バイトを始めたんだ, or, yeah, I was just kind of putting it back to the correct form there.
Right.
And that would be fine too. It's just that this is another way of connecting those two ideas. And when you connect two phrases with the te form in a relationship of A and therefore B, it's not as explicit as when the kara is there.
Right.
I like to compare it to like sometimes in English we use like the ing form, like there being a sale, I'm going to the store to buy something or something. Sorry, that's not a very good example, but like you really all you're saying is there is a sale and I'm going to go buy it. But if you say like this being the case, this other thing, you're suggesting that there's a causal link between those two.
Right. Much more clearly, right.
Yeah. So that full sentence would have been 新しいスマホを買いたくて最近バイトを始めたんだ。I wanting to buy a new smartphone, I recently started a part-time job.
Right.
Yeah. But that second half kind of tacked on as an afterthought. And so let's see the same sort of thing in one more sentence here. 明日ランチ空いてる？新しいお寿司屋に行ってみたいと思ってね。So she's kind of like, sorry, I have characters in my mind. I'm using he for some people and she for
right.
I think this example came from my wife, so I have her as my example speaker.
Right.
If anyone's wondering, that's but yes, she is going back in her mind and realizing, oh, I want to give a little more context about why I just asked this question. Are you free for lunch tomorrow? And then she's like, oh, yeah. The reason that I ask is there's a new sushi place that I want to go try out. And I was thinking that, and that's why I just asked you.
Right.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Got to give that context. So, why are you open? Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to do work for me. There's this new sushi restaurant.
Yeah, dangerous question to answer.
So,
anybody? Does anyone have any questions or anything they want to review?
Not too many questions yet. No.
Okay, great. All right. So now that was it for inversions. Now we're going to get into this pattern called the kato yuto pattern, which is very common. super common in like podcasts, and actually I heard it on the news this morning too.
Okay.
Very, very common in all kinds of conversation, but it literally means you put a question before the ka, and it means if you say this question, well, then let me tell you the answer to that. So for example, なぜかというと means literally if you say, why is it? And then the speaker is going to then answer the question that they just like willed into existence.
Yes. They probably stated that something exists before that, some situation, and now it's going to be, here's why.
Right, yeah. So this is a nice way of kind of leading the listener into what you want to talk about next. So here's an example. なんでそう思ったかというと So this is the question part. なんでそう思ったか Why did you think that way? So the speaker is imagining the listener asking the speaker this question.
Right. Why
So,
were you thinking that?
Yeah.
You ask?
If you ask, why were you thinking that? Well, let me tell you why I was thinking that, right? So, or another one would be, どれが一番美味しかったかというと So, again, the embedded question here, it's not an embedded question. The quoted question is,
right.
Which one was the most delicious? If you say that, or if you ask that, well, I'll tell you.
Donuts.
Right?
Donuts.
だけど、そのドーナツの中でどれが一番美味しかったかというと、
どれが一番美味しかったかというと、ボ
ヘンゼ
ストン
ルクリ
クリー
ームかな。
ムかな。close.
French クルーラー。Yes. Okay. And then the last one, 夏休みにどこに行ったかというと、if you ask, or if you say, but I'm just going to say if you ask, where did you go on summer vacation? Well, here's where I went.
Here's where I went, yeah. Where did I go again? I don't remember. Did I go somewhere on summer vacation? Where did you guys go on summer vacation? どこに行ったかというと Well, and you can answer that way. どこに行ったかというと Where did you guys go on summer vacation? Let us know in the chat.
Yes, that'll be a great exercise.
夏休みにどこに行ったかというと There you go. You can copy that and add where you went. 私の実家です says Yuki. So that's where I went to.
Nice.
That's right.
Cool. All right. So let's. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Yep. All good.
Oh, let's jump into some example sentences.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see here. Jumping right into some. I think this is another you example. Yes, he is a big user of this pattern. So it's going to be right here is the question portion. So let's give it a listen.
Contracted te. Okay, nice. Like it. Go for it.
Very nice. Yeah, he's using it all. Look, he's got ano right here.
Everything we've learned today in one fateful sentence.
Okay, here we go.
で、僕自身どんなアニメが好きかっていうと、アニメーションが綺麗なものとか、すごい独特なスタイルがあるアニメが大好きです。
Alrighty. So, 僕自身どんなアニメが好きか、というと、so if you ask what kind of anime I myself like, and then he gives us the answer right here. Let's see, アニメーションが綺麗なもの。Items where the animation is, beautiful. And すごい独特なスタイルがあるアニメが大好きです。I love anime that has a very unique style. So so he asks the question that he wishes that someone had asked him, and then he proceeds to answer that
Right.
question.
There you go.
Right? It kind of reminds me of they say like in politics, like never answer the question they asked you. Answer the question that you wish they had asked you.
Right, there you go.
So frustrating as a person watching that. But
Indeed.
Let's see here. But in conversation, of course, it's nice because you're giving the listener a heads up of what you're going to say next, what you're going to talk about next. So here's another one. He says, okay, we'll just get directly into here.
で、その自分の好きなことが何かっていうと、趣味ですね。ゲームとアニメです。はい。
Okay. So その自分の好きなことが何かっていうと、if you ask, what are those things that you like? Well, 趣味ですね。Then he sort of summarizes what he just said here, right? Like, okay, this is actually another way of saying 趣味, right? 趣味ですね. My hobbies, they are games and anime.
Nice. What are your guys' 趣味? You can answer with that one as well. 好きなことが何かっていうと You can use that in chat. We've already got some answers for the last question, actually. We've
good.
私の実家です。どこにも行かなかった。So, どこも、あれ Whoa, chat just blew up for a second. どこも行きませんでした。働きました。I understand that feeling. Five Toad Slot Bear says, 夏休みにどこに行ったかというと、友達とキャンプに行きました is what you'd want to say there.
いいですね。
You want the same verb there instead of キャンプをしました。So if instead in there you could say 夏休みに何をしたかというと I guess then you could say キャンプをしました but otherwise Yu says これはポッドキャストを聞いている人がコンテクストをイメージしやすいように意識して使ってます says you that's why he's using that there very nice okay that's nice. Yu no Nihongo no podcast to us right now there The legend himself says
ありがとうございます。
Come Japan Dan says 夏休みにはいろんなところ行ってきたんですけど一番楽しかったところかっていうと熊本だったんですねって。Oh, nice.
いいですね。お城もあるしね。
ね。So you could let us know what your趣味 are as well. 自分の好きなことが何かっていうと and let us know guys in chat. All right, you can continue on, Brian.
Okay, very nice. Let's see here. I think we've got this one left. Another one from Yu-Yu-san. I was going to point out, just in case anyone wanted to confirm, excuse me, where is that sentence? The form of the sentence that you put into that kato yuto is what I call a blunt form question. So you wouldn't use like a des or mas ending. You wouldn't say like doko ni ikimashita ka to yuto or something like that. It would be doko ni itta ka to yuto. So basically you're making a question that is the same form that you would use in like an embedded question in a sentence like I don't know whether or not I went or
right, like
a sentence like that.
Ka, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. But the quick way of explaining what that blunt form question is basically just a sentence that ends with an informal verb followed by ka. Or if the sentence would have ended with da, the da is replaced by ka.
Okay.
So that's why if the sentence is like doko ni itta, it's just doko ni itta ka. But if the sentence was donna anime ga suki desu ka, it's just donna anime ga suki ka. That ka just like takes the place of the desu ka or the da.
Right.
And you just plug that into the kato yuto pattern. Okay. All right. So let's see here. Here's a nice one.
はい。これどういう意味かっていうと、大変な世界から離れてのんびり自分のスタイルで生きるです。
Okay. So here Yu-Yu-san is explaining the meaning of this expression right here, Yu-Yu Jiteki, which is actually his life slogan, his life motto. And he says, どういう意味か? What sort of meaning is it? If you ask what sort of meaning it is, well, I'm going to tell you. And he tells us in what comes next right here. to separate from the difficult world, 大変な世界から離れて、で、のんびり自分のスタイルで生きる。To live, のんびり. How do you say のんびり? Freely. I guess I can just click the carefree, leisurely, in your own
Well,
style.
that was convenient. Look, what you could just click right there and get the meaning.
It almost seemed like some kind of a senden ad.
Yeah, almost.
I didn't do that on purpose. Yeah. Okay. So yes. So let's see here. I think we looked at all of those examples.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all I had prepared. I actually have one more in my mind. If we have
Go
one.
for it. Yeah.
Okay.
Plenty of time.
A little bit of a bonus. Maybe we could do Q&A or something if people want to do that. But I wanted to also talk about the ex no koto pattern.
Ex no koto. Okay.
Yeah, like especially in a sentence like 彼女のことが好きです or something like 彼女は僕のことが好きかなと思いますとか like people sometimes want to know like why do you put no koto in there? Like wouldn't it work as just like僕は彼女が好きです or something like that, right? Why is it 彼女のこと? And it's something that happens like ubiquitously in speech. It's not required. The sentence would totally be fine without it.
Right.
But people use it all the time.
I'm going to type that in chat for people. Koto.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, should I? Maybe I can.
Oh, yeah, you can bring up the Word document. 彼女のことが好きです.
Sorry, this mic is in my way. I'm working on the world's smallest desk here. So.
The joys of working when you're away from home.
Okay. And so what we're talking about really is this. Oops. Come on. This part right there. And I've heard this explained in different ways, but I think that the explanation that people often get is that it's not just her, it's her and like the things of her. 彼女のこと, like I like everything about her, like all aspects and stuff. And I think that there are some cases where that explanation can make sense. You're going to encounter a lot of sentences where that explanation doesn't make sense at all.
Right.
Because a lot of times people will use it when that person is actually just like on the receiving end of some kind of physical action. Like, for example, in Satori Reader, there's this story where Yuko.
That's the name, by the way, guys. Yuko.
Yeah. Sorry, let me use a different Yuko. I'll use an easier one. How about that one? 友達のことを叩いた. That's Yuko hit her friend. She hit her friend at kindergarten, and she's in trouble with her mom. And her mom says like, Yuko, なんで友達のことを叩いたの? Or something like that, right? But like, how can that make sense? Like 友達のことを
She certainly didn't hit her personality or
the
or her
things of
shumi.
Exactly. And I think that the more you start watching for this koto, the more you'll see that it really is used extensively in all kinds of places where it clearly does not mean the abstract things of that person. It just means that person.
Right.
And so I actually don't have never seen this explanation everywhere, but I've been offering it to people on Satori Reader, and I think this is accurate. So tell me what you think about this,
okay.
Andy-san. I think if you look and see and watch where this no koto comes up, first of all, it's always attached to a person. And it's when the person who is marked is the object or the recipient of some kind of emotional response, an action, certainly like tataku. But whatever is happening, it's happening to that person. And you can see how it's actually really useful in a sentence like this one, because, of course, in speech, particles are omitted a lot, right?
Right.
So you could have a sentence like this. 僕、彼女のこと ski kamoshirenai. Let's make it where the guy's kind of figuring it out here.
He's thinking about it. Hasn't
Ski
decided.
kamoshirenai. I might like her. But if you notice, no particle is marked. And even if there were, I mean, the thing that's hard about ski is that you don't mark an object.
Right.
You have ga, right? So you can imagine sentences actually where it's like boku ga kanojo ga ski desu. If that were part of a relative clause, there could actually be two marked particles with ga or items with
two
ga.
marked subjects,
and you wouldn't, yeah, sorry, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't necessarily know.
Yeah.
But since no koto, the person marked with no koto is always on the receiving end of whatever is happening, whether it's the arrow of emotion or an action. Then even if we were to swap these and say, kanojo no koto boku suki kamoshirenai.
Right. It's very clear.
Still, it can only mean I like her and never she likes me.
Right. It makes it much more clear. Clears it out.
Yeah.
Tomodachi o... そうだね. That makes sense. I think that makes sense. It takes a lot of the guessing out of there, because the her as a whole, certainly, like you said, makes absolutely no sense in the second sentence. Your friend as a whole, I don't know how you could possibly hit someone as a whole, just destroy them. I don't think they do that in kindergarten. That's usually reserved for adults.
Right. They figure that out when they're a little older. Yeah. But yeah, so basically it means that no koto kind of ends up becoming this sort of super particle that can do things that other particles really can't do, because it's very flexible. It can work with nantoka ga suki. It can work with nantoka o tataku, as we saw here. You know, whenever just that
receiver.
Right.
A super particle, ladies and gentlemen. The first.
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first. From part of Satori Reader.
I try to not go off the rails in terms of like inventing my own grammar explanations. I look stuff up in the dictionary. I'm very careful about that. But I've never actually seen an explanation of this, like in that dictionary of basic Japanese and some of those standard references. And so I thought I would offer my own, and I hope it's useful for people.
I think that makes sense. I'd be curious. Okay, it doesn't show up in regular Japanese dictionary. No koto is not listed anywhere. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I could see that. That seems to make sense. Let me look really quickly just to see.
Okay.
It would be cool if, here it is. 形でそれに関連する様々な事柄を表す。釣りのことなら。Okay, that's a little bit different. Yeah, I'll worry about that another time. But I think that makes good sense.
Yeah. Of course, koto has like 42
million. There's like 50 different meanings. Yeah, it's definitely different.
I'm not saying that every single time you see no koto, like it means that.
But the listing I was just looking at is like 50 pages long. So I was like, no, I'm not going to look through that right now.
Totally.
Just scrolling sideways forever and ever and ever and ever, and it's just koto.
Totally.
Okay. Yeah.
But anyway, so I guess that's about all of the prepared content that I had for everybody today.
Yeah, wow. I hope you guys learned something. Let us know if you did. What was new for you? Yeah, it was good. I thought there was good examples from Satori Reader. The people who are interested in UU, I think will find a lot of it, like it's basically transcript with translation and breakdowns of every single ones of the words and breakdowns of the new grammar that shows up. So I think that's kind of stuff is very useful. Almost for a learner's type of podcast, almost like not required, but like having it is like a huge benefit, I think. Stuff like that. Even when we did a podcast, it was like if we didn't have a transcript, it was almost in natural speech. It can be very, very difficult for beginners. So that's very good to have, I think.
Yeah, we've had a lot of positive feedback, and one of the things that a lot of people have said, it's kind of this recurring theme in the comments, is like, I love UU. I want to listen to more UU, and but I can't quite follow along.
Right,
like they did. It feels like they're grasping at it, but they can't quite get it. And if that's where you're at, then I think that you would get a lot of value from the Satori Reader treatment. And the great thing about it is after you spend some time going through the Satori Reader version of UU's content, you kind of get used to his voice, you get used to his patterns. then you can go to YouTube or Spotify, and I mean, he's literally has like 300 episodes.
It's a
to
lot
go-
of listening content for your commutes to work.
It is, yeah. So you can go crazy, and you'll have a lot of great stuff to listen to. So,
Red Ogre says definitely the uses of te was very helpful for them, and they need to go back and check what they missed in the live stream because they showed up later, and they'll also check out Satori Reader, they said. And then there's Five to Sloth Bear says, I'm going to check out Yu's podcast more and with the extra value on Satori Reader, they said. Especially when I'm extremely slow Japanese reader. You can pick up some things here and there, but still. With Yu, right? Casto, I don't think I'm saying it right, but Costerinha says, yeah, because just listening to Yu's podcast blind is hard for them, but you can pick up some things here and there, but still. Specifically when I'm extremely slow Japanese reader. So yeah, that definitely makes sense. Aya Bauer says, thank you so much. Arigato, merci. Nice.
いたしまして。
Yeah. So
So yes, and in case anyone doesn't know, we are doing a Black Friday sale right now, which you don't see the banner here because I'm logged in as someone who's already subscribed. But yeah, we have great discounts going on, and we have lots of different stories. We are up to something like 36 stories and 1,300 episodes.
wow.
With
1,300. I remember when you hit
1,000.
1,000, and that was just
That was a
already 300
milestone.
more. That's wild. Red Ogre, thank you so much. Gifted ToKini Andy memberships to Venom, Ichiban, Edith, Felicia, Fu Huang, and Rebecca Powell. 5 gifted memberships. Thank you very much. Yeah. So anyway, back to thank you so much. 1,300. That's wild. It would take you.
Yeah.
My video is no longer accurate. Remember, I did a video where I read every single episode on Satori Reader.
Yeah,
that was pre 1,000. That was like 900 something. I've got a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah. Well, if you'd like to, we'd love for you to read them. But yeah, I love teaching Japanese and talking about Japanese with you and sharing this all with everyone. So thank you so much for having me here today.
Yeah,
and
thank you. It's a good time.
I hope it was useful for your users, and we would love to see some of you, if you like, on Satori Reader too.
Yep.
You can keep going.
Dan put the link up there as well for us. There's no special link or anything, right? You just go to satorireader.com and you'll have the Black Friday sale. Sweet. Very good.
That is right.
Now. Very good deal right now. Senor Seren says 14 months. JLPT N4 wa ni 2日しかない。あと2日しかないか. Oh, it's only 2 days to the JLPT, so maybe some of these will be. Yeah. すごく緊張していますが、頑張ってみます. Yeah, good luck, Senor Seren.
頑張ってください。
頑張って。
緊張しますよね。
ね。Jack Stevens says, been listening to this one NHK radio news program during work. Gonna have to check out Yu for sure. Right. Definitely. Enjoy. All right. Yeah. So no, I think that was good. I think we hopefully people learned some things, and if you missed something or showed up later, if you go back to the beginning of the stream, we started with some simpler things at the very beginning and then sort of progressed into more complicated grammar structures that are used very frequently in conversation that you probably haven't learned much in your textbook studies. Yeah. So I hope people will find this useful for many months and years to come. 配信をありがとうございます。ゆっくりに週末を楽しめるといいんですね。またね says Dambu. ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございました。
Right. All right, guys. Well, I think we are going to get off to lunch for now. Unless anyone has any questions, we'll give you a minute or two to see if you have any extra questions for us. There was a question way back that I wanted to bring up, but I have a feeling I won't be able to find it. Yeah, people have been very active talking in here, so might be a little difficult to find that one. Oh well, maybe next time. If you asked a question that hasn't been answered yet, we will give you a minute to ask that now. But thank you. We'll rerun this again later. I wasn't able to watch the first half. Hi. Awesome stream 100. All right, yeah. So maybe not any questions. If you do have any questions, though, let us know in the comments of this video, and we will be keeping an eye on those in the weeks to come, and we will answer any questions you might have down there in the comments, especially for people watching after the fact. One thing, please make sure you hit the like button on the video, because that helps it get out to people who might not have come to the live stream. So, yeah, make sure you do that. Thank you so much for hanging out, guys. And thank you for coming to the stream, Brian. I hope you had a good time on your very first ever live stream.
I made it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for hosting me and making all of this possible. It has really been great.
Ooh, we have a big, heavy-duty question.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Just when I thought I was safe.
What approach, I'm trying to think of a possible answer as I read it, should I take when trying to read sentences in Japanese? Mainly, if there's anything to make my life slightly easier. Anything at all. That's a heavy question. You might not realize it, but...
Pretty big. What approach should I take when trying to read sentences in Japanese?
Anything to make it slightly easier. It doesn't have to be like an overall worldview.
I mean, it depends on what kind of sentence you're trying to read and what your current level
Let's come
is.
up with an example for ourselves. So, for example, if you now were reading a book, not an example sentence, but I'm saying, if you were reading a book right now and you ran into a sentence that was very complex, maybe it's sometimes Japanese authors will make what look like a paragraph long single sentence, and you're looking at that. What would be like your first step of trying to break it down if you weren't sure right off the bat? Because a lot of times you will nowadays be sure right off the bat. But if you've read it and you're like, wait a second, what? What would you do?
Okay. Yeah. It took me a little bit to kind of engage my brain on this, but yes, I think that in that kind of situation where you're sort of struggling to get a foothold, the first thing you should do is look at the verb. And you might also find that there are multiple verbs. And so that would indicate that there are separate clauses, and that can kind of help you to understand, oh, is this an A but B kind of sentence? Or, you're an A and therefore B kind of sentence. The verbs are going to kind of indicate the end of those clauses. If you're lucky, there's one verb, and now you know what happened. And so your next step is going to find out who did it. Find the subject of that verb. And so you're going to kind of go back and you're going to see maybe is something marked with ga. That would be a subject for sure. Maybe it's just a topic. Then it's marked with wa. Or maybe it's not there at all because we already knew about that subject from an earlier sentence. But somebody did the verb.
Yes.
And so figuring out who that is would be a next step. And that can kind of start to give you the bones. And then you might start to see that some of this other stuff is just like some extra explanation of that person.
In what way they did the verb, or
exactly.
In the case where there's one case, I guess, when there's no one that did the verb, and that's when it's an intransitive verb. But it could be how wide open the window is, for example.
But somebody still does the verb.
But someone still does it eventually. At one point.
If the window is open, then the doer is
right.
Mado ga aiteimasu. Let's say that's the sentence, right? So the doer in this case is the window. When I say someone, I mean like you're like pinning down the criminal who is the doer of this verb, right? Like, and so of course the subject can be a non-human actor, but so then you would say, okay, aiteimasu is the verb. It's open. What's open? Who is doing this verb here? And then you could find mado ga, and you would go, oh, okay, the window is doing the work of being open.
Yeah.
That's a really critical step, I think, for people who are kind of getting used to this whole idea in Japanese where like the subject might not be there, because it actually is there. It's just not explicitly in the sentence. And the reason that that's important is because sometimes people will kind of like go to this thing, like try to cheat it by going into a passive sentence or something like that. Like let's say the sentence is keiki wo tabeta. Let me just write that out for people here. Oops. Keiki wo tabeta. Okay, so somebody ate the cake or something, right? It could be a dog or something like that. But what it does not mean is the cake was eaten, right? People kind of will try to fudge it that way because they'll go like, oh, I don't see the subject, so I'll just like find a way of expressing that in English where we don't need to have a subject.
Right.
But tabeta it's in the active voice. So it means somebody that we both know about did this verb. So when I say we both know about them, that's the reason that the subject was omitted from the sentence.
Right. It's known from some kind of context. If it's in a story, it was mentioned in a previous sentence, or if it's in a conversation, you brought the person up a while ago as a new topic or whatever.
Yeah. So this doesn't even mean someone ate the cake. It means so-and-so, that person that we've been talking about and that we both know, they ate the cake. What it really means is they ate the cake.
Right.
Where they is the person that we've been talking about. So the key to all of this is you first find the verb here. Ooh, tabeta. They ate it. Okay. So then you can start working backwards and go, okay, what did they eat? There's a marked object here. And then you can sort of construct up from there.
Right. And to be clear, everyone, this isn't what we're doing literally every single time we're speaking or writing Japanese. It's what you do when you're sort of stuck.
When you're stuck, to get unstuck. Yeah.
Just to be clear about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And but I think that there's some version of this process does happen internally when a native speaker hears a sentence, and if it's not immediately clear what happened, they'll be like, eh? Like, because something that people will say is like, eh, darega, or something like that.
Right.
It's darega, like who is the subject here, right? Who did the thing that you just said? Yeah.
Right.
I think that would be a good place to start when you're trying to sort of like break the sentence down. First, try to find the joints and see if you can break it into multiple halves, because then you've made your life easier because you have independent units that you can break down. And then try to tackle them individually and just find out who did what for each of those. Yeah.
Become a little mystery solver there, and you'll get much better very fast, and eventually you won't have to think about it.
And yes, if anyone thinks that sounds like ridiculously Sherlock Holmesian, and that's not like the natural human way to deal with sentences, it just becomes a second nature. It's just a really good exercise to get your brain into thinking.
And there's always going to be, like, no matter how much Japanese you've studied or read, there's always going to be situations where you're going to find a sentence that is difficult. And this is true of your own language as well. If you're reading a difficult book, like you read a sentence, you might have to read it 6 times, maybe more, just to figure out what the person was saying for multiple reasons. They might be bad writers. They might be explaining a very difficult topic. Like, there's many reasons why this might happen. So
yeah.
Shell says, love Yu's podcast on Satori Reader, ! Nice. And Koslina says, thank you. To be fair, when you don't know the language very well yet, you kind of do have to get Sherlock Holmesy, is what they're saying. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think it's a good way to approach it in a sense, because it kind of makes it more fun if you're thinking of yourself as like a detective that's trying to figure out what the message is. It can add a level of enjoyment to it, I think.
I think that for me, when I was learning, what that approach kind of unlocked in my brain was there's nothing random happening here. Sometimes people will kind of like get the wrong idea about Japanese, in that, like, because there are omitted particles, but omitted items like objects and subjects and stuff, that somehow there is like this ambiguity that's always floating in the air. And I love what Jay Rubin says, like, if you would listen to how some people describe it, Japanese grammar is more subject to the rules of fragrance, as though you're like just wafting incense back and forth. But
it's all about feeling, reading.
Right. But that's not how people communicate. People want to communicate clearly. They only omit those things when they already know, they have confidence that the other person is with them and that we're on the same page.
Right.
And kind of like realizing, oh, every verb does have a subject. There aren't any verbs that don't have subjects, and that really unlocked this part of me that was like, okay, so I'm not trying to figure out magic here.
It's just figuring out the context. What were we talking about exactly? And it's easier than you think, because I think the one critique I can give towards like textbooks is that you often just have a standalone sentence, or even like example sentences on any page, where it's just an example sentence, is you don't have any context. It's just a single sentence. So it's like, well, how on earth am I supposed to figure out what keiki o tabeta means. If I've
Mhm.
only got keiki o tabeta. And the thing is you'll never have in real life just keiki o tabeta on its own. It will never be just that sentence. It's always going to be embedded in the context of, I know that you bought cake yesterday and put it in the fridge, and I know that I ate it, and I know that you're saying, 誰がケーキを食べた? Well, that would actually
Right.
have the subject, but
Right, yeah.
cake. I mean, that was a bad example of what the context is, but that's maybe the context. It might not be something that was spoken out loud. It's just that there was cake, and then keiki o tabeta would be clear to you who ate it.
Right. Or
Is what I'm saying.
The context of even just being in the same room with another person and asking them directly a question.
Right. Keiki o tabeta.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It kind of like establishes the context that I'm asking about you.
Did you eat the cake?
Right.
Hey, we don't need it. It's just two of us. I'm not asking if I ate the cake, obviously, but Five Does Out there says, "Yay, Jay Rubin! I got to him via Kiradali early on in learning. Japanese is very logical when understood in its own terms." Yes, Brian also introduced me to Jay Rubin, and I found that extraordinarily helpful. His zero pronoun? I think he called it.
Yeah,
Stuff
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
He's so awesome. And he gets, if you go like Amazon reviews, so many people are just hung up on the fact that his example sentences in the book use romaji. And I think he was just trying to make it accessible to people of all levels.
Also, when he wrote the book,
it was a while back.
And not everyone was into anime and Japanese RPGs and stuff. It wasn't like a normal thing that just popped up. People didn't know the go from all the JoJo, anime things on YouTube thumbnails and stuff. So I think back then, the only way that people could approach it was with romaji.
Yeah, but if that has been stopping you, please, power through the example sentences, just because everything he has to say is he's
Gold.
He has like condensed, 50 years worth of like everything he's learned about Japanese into this beautiful book that just is enlightening. You'll love it.
Absolutely.
I don't get any.
This video is not sponsored by Jay Rubin, by the way, guys. This video is not sponsored by Jay Rubin.
I'm a big fan of this.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed his book, the one that I read at least as well. It was very, very good.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Random question: What are Brian's favorite animes? I don't know. Do you watch anime, Brian, at all?
Yeah, I don't really. Sorry, I'm not.
Brian's more of a reader.
Anime person. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have been reading some manga recently. I know it's not the same as anime, but I've been reading this one called Kaizoku to Yobareta Otoko, the man who was called pirate, and it's about. It's really interesting. It's like historical. It's about the founder of the oil company Idemitsu in Japan. It's a big oil company, and it's kind of he was like this underdog. And he got kind of shut out of the oil industry, but he really fought for what was going to be in Japan's best interest after World War II. And this was really interesting. Like I find it fascinating that manga, there is so many manga that take up like these really like serious topics and like explain history and stuff like that.
Right.
So
Makes
that's kind of
digestible.
It's what I'm reading right now. But sorry, I don't.
Kaizoku to yobareta otoko?
Otoko, yeah.
Okay. Nice. All right. So far, I've been watching Pokemon in Japanese for, well, obvious reasons. Okay.
Nice.
I'm in kind of early on. So comments. Okay. Yeah, I don't think there was any more questions. So I think that was an excellent answer. I hope that helped you out a little bit, Kostelina. And kaki wa taberarenai says Misasone. Okay.
Fruits in the hole? それとも
Which one, I wonder? Kaki? Oysters or persimmons, is it? Something like that.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I think we are going to end it there. I think Brian and I are probably both very hungry. It's probably lunchtime.
Yeah, my throat's starting to get a little shagarete.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again for hanging out, Brian, and teaching us a bunch of new stuff. And
thank you very much.
We hope to have you again here soon.
I would love to come back. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, thanks everybody.
お疲れ様です。Thank you very much, everyone.
お疲れ様でした。
See
Bye bye.
you next time. Bye bye.